Well, hello, and then to your surprise and to all of my surprise, we're on this channel once again. Um,
Hey,
we had been on the Cracks channel previous week, so we haven't seen it. Go and check his channel. Usually, you have more people as well, but somebody decides like it's too busy for them to talk to us, so we end up just two of us now. So, but we're
yeah,
still here. We want this therapy, like it's important to us.
yeah, it's true.
But oh, comic books I pick to read is honestly like a therapy.
For real.
Yeah, hello. Well, that's the person I mentioned
Hello,
earlier.
Ding.
And hi, Celia.
Hello, Celia.
So yeah, I read some. Woof. I'll share with you that yeah, my choice in the library was interesting, and
Like
then sometimes I
depressing or like?
yeah,
Oh,
in a
really?
way.
Yeah.
But it's the choice I make. Like I said, I don't usually look too much about the book, nor back nor front. Like
Yep.
really, I just pick it up and just go with it.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Well, this
that's
time I
how a
was like,
good way to do it.
yeah, you'll
Sometimes,
hear, you'll
sometimes.
you'll hear my choices and like
R-
what she's up to there.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, so it will be interesting. So very therapeutical, definitely. So
yeah.
stay tuned, people. We'll maybe educate you a little bit as well. Um,
Did you see Damien's video that he posted today? Speaking of Damien in the chat room there, he just posted
what
like a three minute video of his boxes in storage. So you get
I
a chance
have,
to see kind of like his pile of books. It was pretty awesome.
I saw the thing, but I haven't had chance to watch it. I was
Yeah.
busy watching something else instead.
I just finished watching it like before I came downstairs to get set up. And it's good. It looks like he put a bunch of boxes aside to sell, and he's
Hmm.
slowly going through stuff and organizing, and it's pretty great, man. It looks good.
Cool. I'm glad. Well, I'm
Yeah,
definitely gonna watch it. It's will be definitely very interesting to see where he hides his stuff.
got a lot of books, man. He's got a lot of books.
Yeah, he says he just posted it. So
Yeah.
well, we'll check it out. Make sure you don't post any addresses on that video. People will snoop around. I'm
Yeah.
joking. I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
joking. That's nothing like that happens. So before we chat about our comic therapy,
Yep.
we'll do a movie therapy a little bit.
Yes. Which one
Or
would that be?
so
Hmm.
on the comics track video, we were chatting about this movie in particular. It's called Popeye. Because Sleep Reader, as mentioned, is comic book reading from library,
Yep.
and you guys were mentioning the movie, and I was like, as always, subject on the matter. Somebody says something, and like, huh? I need pictures to understand what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So I went through and watched it again, even though I watched it beforehand. So I
Oh,
definitely
you
was
have.
well
Yeah.
aware of this movie prior to that. But like
Yeah.
always, uh, Robin Williams and Shelley
Shelley
what?
Duvall.
Shelley Duvall. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, nice to hear, Damon, that your security is tight in there. Very good.
Yeah.
uh,
It looked dry too, like it looked like an interior storage, so
uh,
dry and probably temperature controlled and things, so that's always a good thing.
so just don't forget about the bags then. If you're temperature controlled, you don't need to bag them, board them. It
Right?
will be
Just get them
fine.
in there.
Yeah.
Cut the boxes in half.
Yeah. So talking about that movie, I loved it. It's
Yeah.
obscure, definitely. I love the scenery. I love the cast choices.
Yeah.
Of course, a bit of a tearful thing about Robin Williams' part.
Yeah.
And then to make it more interesting, my husband told me about another movie, and Robin Williams was part of it as well.
Okay.
And have you heard about a movie called Death to Smoochie?
Yeah. I have heard of it. Yeah. I saw it a lifetime ago. Isn't like is Bill Murray in that or something, and Bobcat Goldthwait or something, or
Danny DeVito,
Danny DeVito?
and
Yeah.
who actually directed that movie,
Right.
and Edward Norton.
Oh,
Uh,
that's right. Yeah, Edward Norton. Right. Right. Right.
and so my husband was saying, "Oh, you mentioned that movie," so we actually watched it the other day together. That
Nice.
movie, but I've seen it once again. I've seen that movie again together with him.
So
As
basically, you
it's
just don't remember what it is that you've seen.
kind of, yeah, I don't have this like like I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I watched the movie. If I remember like some specific movie that the actor, which like something really kind of like memorable, maybe in at some points, or I watched numerous times, which doesn't happen as often. But I
Yeah.
don't know details like you guys just brought up. Oh, director's name, an actor who's been there, how many
Yeah.
minutes he's have been part of the movie. That doesn't
Yeah.
sit in that brain for a very long time.
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah.
But visually, if I see it, I definitely understand exactly
Hmm.
how and everything went. So
Hmm.
yeah, another movie, extremely obscure, but it's very endearing as well. But it's in a way kind of crazy, but the way Robin Williams was portraying the character in there. He was
Okay.
a character called Rainbow Randolph or Rudolph, Rainbow Rudolph or something like that. So yeah, so another movie kind of reminded me, or my husband reminded me to talk about kind of thing. So,
Right.
and it's actually very entertaining. But Danny
Yeah, it's
DeVito,
kind of like a cult classic, I think. Like I said, I've seen it so long ago, I couldn't tell you much anything about it anymore.
it,
But it's a
it
classic,
was, I think it was 2002 when it was released.
right? Okay.
So it's quite a long time ago.
Yep.
What, 20 years ago?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, so it's been a while. But yeah, if you are a fan of Robin Williams, you'll see another side of him, which is great to see as an actor have the caliber the guy has been able to provide. Especially, I think the most entertaining movies of his, in generally for me, is a bit more serious parts he takes
Hmm.
on.
Right.
That's more memorable, especially like that those pictures, like the guy who, when he was photographing and he was serial killer, that just disturbed me, knowing how laid back Robin Williams as a stand-up comedy guy is.
Yeah.
I don't know how to say it for the word. And then
Comedian,
you
yeah.
you see him on the serious side, and he just turns the person completely upside down, even though he's just portraying some character.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, interesting.
So
Have
Popeye
you?
was a hit, though, right? You still
Oh
loved it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Popeye was absolutely fantastic, and I loved every bit of it. I
Yeah.
liked the color scenes, the town they chose,
Yeah.
the
Which
bad guy.
I'm guessing even on the cover, like I'm looking at it, I'm
Yeah, it's
guessing
exactly the
that they
same.
built it. Like I'm
Yeah.
assuming they built everything.
Mhm.
Because I know that again, like the McCabe and Mrs. Miller one, they built that whole town in there. So I don't think it's too hard to believe that they built everything in this movie. I looked actually last night to see if it was available on any streaming service online or on my TV. Unfortunately, it's not. It was a renter, so I'm gonna see if I can find it online and watch it again, because last weekend and then this reminding me about it. I've got to see it. And the music is just incredible in it. Like the songs and everything are so good by Harry Nilsson is who the songs are by. But having the actors actually sing the songs too, like Olive Oil singing that He Needs Me is an absolute burner. It's an absolute classic. He's Large is another good one by Olive Oil too, when she's talking about getting married to Bluto or whatever. It's Bluto, right? Not Brutus, Bluto. Yeah, just great stuff, man. She steals. Robin Williams is fantastic. Everybody's fantastic, but honestly, Shelley Duvall kind of steals that show. She is so good in that role.
She's really portraying the Olive Oil as you would imagine, or if you were reading strips in the original form, if you were, or cartoons you're familiar with, or even comic books these days, and you will put them in the graphic novels and stuff like that. So definitely Olive Oil to what you think she would be like.
Right.
And they just nailed it, honestly. The haircut, the ghettos, the way they were, inside that characters and all that town, how they were escaping him the minute just he entered the town, and he was like, "Oh, everybody's closed. Like, we don't need this."
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely fantastic. So yeah,
Yeah,
highly
that's
recommend it as well if you
Yeah.
guys want to spare some time for the movie like that.
Um,
And you watched anything else new?
I watched. Have you watched Deadly Class?
Or the whole season?
Yeah. Did you watch the whole thing?
No, I watched only 4 episodes.
Because I watched the first 2 last night. I just watched 2 of them just to kind of try it out, because I mean I've heard so many good things. That apparently it was a bigger hit in the UK than it was here in North America,
Europe
from what I've
generally.
heard.
Yeah.
So I found it and I watched 2 episodes. I'm digging it so far. I could only do 2 episodes. I kind of reached my limit after 2 episodes.
Yeah.
But I'm enjoying it so far. There's moments that I'm not as crazy about, and like I'm not a fan of high school. I hated high school. I don't like looking back on high school.
Oh.
So some of that stuff was a little difficult to watch, where it's just like, oh, fuck these guys, you know what I mean? Like, so, but I think it's a good show so far. It's pretty interesting. I'm digging it, and
A comic.
it's going to be one of those things. Once I finish it, I bet it's going to be like I wish they would do another one, because I have a feeling it's building. Like, there's some things in there that are coming, you know, even after the 2 episodes. And it's also nice to see that actor who plays Wong in Doctor Strange in like one of the main roles as well too. And Henry Rollins, that's a guy from my youth, playing the teacher who teaches about poisons. It's kind of cool to see him in a role, even though he's not the strongest of actors. It's cool to see him there.
Well, I think they are friends with somebody. Somebody knows each other. Like they all know, because Henry Rollins, all the punk scenes,
Black Flag and stuff.
Yeah. So and Deadly Class great.
Rick Remender.
Oh my god, blanking names again. He was hugely inspired by the punk scene as well. And then there's another guy who actually on YouTube, I used to follow him. He was doing actually comic book type of videos. He was friend of Rick Remender as well, and they were basically all in the same kind of scene, like punk, growing up in the same areas and stuff. So it seems to be maybe kind of inspired to go in there, because Henry Rollins don't act as many roles you see in him anyway. You know, he's already has kind of like a persona everybody knows about because of the Black Flag. But then even getting him to act as well is kind of interesting, you know. So
I've seen him a couple of times. I was a huge Rollins fan for a little while there. I've seen him live a couple of times when he did his spoken word tour and stuff. So I saw him, I think, twice when he was kind of just talking. And I have his book somewhere, Get in the Van, which talks about his time in Black Flag and touring and stuff, and how he got into the band, how it was in the band. Like, really, really great stuff. And I probably still have some books of his writing somewhere in a box in storage, you know, like, he's a pretty big character and all of that stuff. I don't follow him as much these days, but
I still recommend Deadly Class as a comic though.
Yeah, for sure. That'll be the next I'm going to read that.
And also maybe you should check library.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, get it from the library.
Because I think surely my library has quite a few copies as well. So you should definitely, I think, should be available quite there if you just want to sample it. Because sometimes, you know, I can see maybe because I was so invested in the comic book throughout picking up those 56 odd issues, I was just invested in them, and I just could not stop, and I was completely committed to that. But for some people, it doesn't work. So if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You know, like it's always up to our choices. You know, we can recommend it, and you just have to sample it and see if it's exactly what you maybe were looking for as well. Okay, do you want to kick us off with the comic reading?
Sure. Go on. Actually, I hadn't really thought about it, so I'm not super prepared all of a sudden. Hey, why don't we do something out of the normal, out of the usual for me?
Okay, go on. You're gonna show whole video?
Sorry, say that again.
Are you gonna do a whole?
No. Why don't I show this little nugget there? World's Finest Comics, featuring characters that you might be familiar with, Superman and Batman.
Oh, no.
So this is issue number 305. Yeah, who are they exactly? It's a badass cover. First of all, it's pretty cool stuff. Like Smurfs. No, that would be within my wheelhouse. So the kayfabe guys had the guy who does Copra, whose name I can't remember, Damien, I'm sure we'll put it in the messages there. They had him on as a guest, and they looked at a Trevor Von Eden art in a Batman comic. And this is, and they talked about this one as well, too. So I found this one, I don't know, a week or so ago or whatever. And just to kind of try it out and sample his art. The story I couldn't make heads or fucking tails of, because obviously it's continued from a couple of issues, and this is just a chunk before it moves on. I sort of made some sense of it. Null and Void are the two main villains in it, which seem like interesting characters. But the reason I was in it was for stuff like this. So I guess Superman gets sent to this kind of, I don't know if it's some other dimension or interdimensional kind of space or something. So I mean, that's our first introduction to Superman in this issue. I love that. It's incredible, and it reminds me of again the Copra artist, which
Michael
Damien
Fife.
puts him in there.
That's what
Michel Fife, yeah, Michel
what
Fife. It really
Michael.
reminds me of his style of art too,
Mhm.
especially those hands and things, and that
Mhm.
kind of exaggerated pose coming right at you. So I'm not as familiar with Trevor Von Eden's stuff. I do know the name. Somebody online today was saying I think Thriller was a book that he did
Okay.
that was recommended for me to check out. But I mean, look at this shit for
Hmm.
a DC comic.
Trippy.
What is this? 1984. It's pretty wild stuff. Like it's pretty bonkers.
I don't like.
Hello, Donald. So it was a fun book to look through. But like I said, I couldn't really follow what was happening because there's obviously a million issues that I'm missing, right? Like with these kind of things, there's always so much. It was still a pretty contained story to some degree. It gave you enough of a chunk, but I was mostly just in
Mhm.
awe of these pages, like when he gets to let loose, which is
Mhm.
always the fun about putting someone in like some nether realm or introducing magic or something. You're getting these creators juices flowing to break up a page like this, even,
Yeah.
really, really cool. So I'm going to keep my eyes out for some more of his books. I'd like to get that Batman issue that they were talking about. I don't remember the number of it off the top of my head, but started at DC when he was 17, drawing Black Lightning. Okay. Yeah, and then the colorist is obviously doing a lot of work here too. It's a little muddy in parts.
Uh-huh.
Um, like in there and stuff, it's a little kind of muddied up where it's not always clear at times what you're looking at. Or here's an even better example here. There
Mhm.
isn't much kind of anything standing out
Yeah.
jumping off of that page. And even when they go a little straight once he's out of that kind of other dimension or whatever, even there, it's still a little kind of dark looking. So he grew radically and then suffered from depression, I believe. Oh, okay. And this is fun. So even when he does just kind of a straight ahead, it's just filled with something, right? Like there's a different kind of energy there. So
Yeah.
it was a pretty fun issue overall.
Cool.
It always reminds me when I'm reading this stuff how wordy some of this stuff is too, though. I started
Yeah.
just kind of skipping panels,
Yeah.
not reading every single panel. But this Null and Void character were kind of cool.
Mhm.
This Null guy can create this force field around you that basically shuts off all your senses, and then Void can kind of send you into these other dimensions. So kind of interesting duo of characters, and they have to be together to kind of get their powers going, I guess. So
Mm. Well, this is interesting for you even talking about superheroes lately.
yeah,
You've been very involved in your undergrounds. You've
yeah,
been just going underground all the time, and then now suddenly you win the light and seeing
yeah, yeah.
superheroes.
In the light, yeah. Well, I mean, that's the only bit of light you're gonna see from superheroes this week, because the rest of it wasn't that. Yeah, no, none of it was. Now that I'm looking at the shelves, so yeah,
Oh, shucks.
the rest will be perversion.
So, superheroes will win one day.
Yeah, no,
No,
they have their spot just every once in a while. I can't do
just
it too
stay
much.
stay where you are.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't know where to start, to be honest, because it's kind of like interesting things I read. So I have a typical my Marvel reading because I continue doing that, but I'm gonna go with something I have not fully yet finished, but because I needed to give it the time because I enjoyed the story so far, and it's well-known writer, but it was adapted into comic book form. It's been in the book form for a very long time, I think. And this is okay. Let me. Um,
hey,
Fear,
look at that.
Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas by Hunter S. Thompson
Classic.
and adapted by Troy Little. So my husband is a huge fan of Hunter S. Thompson's writing,
Hmm.
and he's been talking about him for quite some time. And to be honest, I have not perceived as a, I'm not a book reader whatsoever.
Yep.
I do some from blue moon to blue moon, but it happens quite rare. And then this in library I saw, and this is where one of the famous storytellers, or stories been told by Hunter Stonson, and I wasn't surprised to see that in comic book format, but Troy Little apparently adapted this, and Troy Little is Canadian.
Oh, really?
Yeah, to my surprise.
Right.
And it's published by Top Shelf or IW.
Do you know what else he's done? Because the name doesn't even sound familiar to me at all.
Well, let's see if they have a bit of a. Okay, Troy Little's an Eisner Award nominated writer and artist of Angora Napkin. His other works included Chiaroscuro, Patchwork Book 1, and other lesser statements of our time. So he's not
Yeah,
a
nothing.
hugely well-known character.
Right.
That's him. And that's the character he's talking about, Hunter S.
Mhm.
Thompson. So yeah,
Dr.
and
Thompson.
yeah, and it's really well adapted. I think it's really suiting the story so far, which I've not finished it. That's what the thing is. Reading in big chunker books, it's usually takes quite a long time, and I just want to give a little bit more time. It's hilarious at
Yep.
first, because the first thing you find out is this. They're rushing to Las Vegas because Hunter Thompson had a phone call where he has to cover this amazing race of motorcycles, which happens, I guess, not very often. And he had to go and rush from California to Las Vegas, first deciding to get maybe a motorcycle to do the race coverage right, to get into the scenes of it. But then decides to get to this kind of Cadillac type of vehicle with the top open, and the best part of this is this amount of drug cabinet he has
Yeah.
with him, and it says pint of raw ether, 2,000 amyls, quart of rum, case of Budweiser, quart of tequila, salt shaker full of cocaine, 5 sheets of high powdered blotted acid, 75 pallets of methylene, 2 bags of grass, uppers, downers, scrapers, and laughers. So it's just that, a little bit for a trip going. So straight away, it has been a trip, literally,
Mhm.
not only as a road, but also in the brain of our main characters. And this Samoan lawyer is the most hilarious human being so far. It
Yeah.
really helps the way it's been drawn. Characters looking completely like just not doesn't take it too seriously in a way, and telling quite a serious to bear storyline, and but it's extremely entertaining, especially when he starts tripping and starts seeing things like while he's driving. Where is that scene? Yeah, while he's driving, saying, Jesus, what are these goddamn animals in
Yeah.
front of
Yeah.
him? And he's just tripping, seeing things what is not there, and then pretends everything's fine until they end up being in the hotel when they arrive to Las Vegas, and they go just to wind down because their room is not ready. He starts seeing creatures like this. This is receptionist in his mind while he's tripping on God knows what. And this lawyer of his is just like, he's protected, I'm gonna sue everybody. And then we go to the bar and see his slew of like alligators and the pools of blood, and he's there, just supposed to relax. So
It's like a day in the life of Gore Vidal, wandering around with his lawyers all the time.
yeah, so it's absolutely fantastically described, and it's everything goes according to so far. When I was telling my husband the story what I've read, he says it's kind of going with the book as well, so which is
Mhm.
great. I mean, it's true to what the material is all about, but in the comic format, which I'm actually absolutely pleased to read. And
Pretty
yeah,
brave book to tackle, because I mean he's so associated with Ralph Steadman that it's
yeah,
really that's a challenge right out of the gate to have
yeah.
any sort of art with this story.
Yeah, but yeah. So as I say, so far where I reached it, everything went like up to and I wanted to read it, but I got distracted by some of horrible things I read. Horrible things I read. So not
Yeah.
a horror. Let's say not this way. Eye-opening scenes
Right.
where uh, that I didn't expect. I mean, I kind of did. Kind of, it would be a no-brainer when you. I'll show you some of it first, like the first book cover. Kind of tells you kind of bit of a story what you expect inside. But it's just I feel so sorry for lots of things happening in there. But anyway, I'll get to
Right.
that later on. So
Right.
stay
Right.
tuned. Okay, your turn. Your turn.
So while we're talking all this art, something I guess quote read today because it's a silent.
Mm-hmm.
All 5 issues are silent,
Oof.
but holy shit, the art is beautiful. And I'm just curious about your take on a couple of things too, because
One.
there's a style that I've seen before.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a book called Liaison Delicieuse is what it is. And it's what I got from Eros yesterday. So the first 5 issues of a 6-issue miniseries by
Mm-hmm.
an artist named Richard Forg.
Mm-hmm.
And the very first page that you're hit with is this gorgeous splash of this car pulling up in front of this giant kind of mansion. But one of the things that I found really neat about this book is the kind of different styles that are going on here. When you start looking closer, I love like at a distance, having all that chunky black marks and everything there.
Mm-hmm.
But when you start going closer and seeing, like, I can picture someone with a black Sharpie kind of making those marks. And
Mm-hmm.
again, it's this feel of like, when I see stuff like this, I don't know if it's the same for you. When I see stuff like this, I can almost feel like the energy of the artist, like just kind of zipping through and
Mm-hmm.
dropping those lines on the stairs, for example, and dropping it all this shading here and getting like the feel of bushes here. It's
Mm-hmm.
amazing, amazing stuff. It feels so kind of full of life. And
Yeah.
then when you flip the pages, there's still some of that, but then you get this very clean kind of
Oh wow.
fine line,
Mm-hmm.
um, which is gorgeous. So all of these are kind of
Whoosh.
they take there's 2 main female characters, and each of the issues there's a story that revolves around them. The first couple of issues involved this character, this masked character. 2, or maybe it's the first 3 issues, I don't remember now.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, because it's Eros, they all end up in sex in some form or another. But
Yeah.
forgetting all of that, it's especially later on when he goes, so you get introduced to kind of these darker pages and things. And then it's a real nice contrast that when you can find, let me see if I can find one where it's just kind of line work. Oh, and then there's stuff like this too. So another person is creeping up outside and coming in to fight this guy. But again, you can see that real black chunky use of just laying down these big fat marks everywhere. Really, really nice. So then when you do get the line work, all right, so get your children around, wake up the kids, get them around the TV. So one of the fun things that he does here, I wish this would have gone on for a couple of pages. You get almost like these 2 stories going on at once. So the 2 dudes are fighting while the 2 ladies are kind of just getting it on there. But when you get like the contrast of this line work, it's amazing. And there's one of the later issues, which I'll show you in a second, where pretty much that entire issue is that really thin line. And it feels, again, like there's this speed behind it. That's amazing. Let me see if I can find it. I think it's one of the later ones. But even stuff like this, that's making up the images. Again, it's like that Alex Nino kind of one continuous line to, it's incredible what an artist can do and what our brains can do, I think is the other part that kind of came to me reading this stuff. What our brains can do with very little information. These 4 panels, like this one here. So you start with, that's your first panel. And then you see her moving the towel around. So once you kind of get the whole page in, like this is the line work to make up a towel and there's legs there, right? Yeah. It's fucking amazing, the gaps that your brain fills in. So I really, really enjoyed this book a hell of a lot. I mean, again, like Naked Ladies doesn't hurt it at all, but it's just the art is really gorgeous. So this is one that had this kind of sparseness to it.
Yeah.
I feel like there was one or two. Yeah, here we go. Especially for her pages.
Yeah.
Like all of that white on the page. Really, really great. So I've put the 6th issue on my wish list on Lone Star, and I'm going to look up this guy's art. And like I was saying in the video when I posted this, he does have a book called, where's the ad for it? Laundryland. And I think I might have picked up an issue or two of this before. So I'd have to have a look again. But I mean, even that ad right there is fantastic. If you're liking this book, try his other one that's a little more, it's a little more family friendly as opposed to, from our dirty line of comics. But strong, highly recommended. It's really, really great stuff. And it's nice that it's all silent. Like I said, each one does have a storyline. There is a little bit of a story. But that's not what's getting you through the comic for the most part. Really, really great. So, yeah. Our Liaison Delicieuses is the name of that one.
So now, because you pick up so many obscure underground comic books, and you being so OCD, knowing that you like everything in order, how do you know where to put whatever you put on catalog your comic books? Because I'm only having several lines of companies, let's say, and I'm already struggling, which I go A, B, C, D, E, F, G, company name or creators.
Yeah. And I do company for the most part. I do company. So I've got like, especially when it comes to these independent, they're all down in these bottom 2 drawers. Yeah. And when I say like those ones, I'm even including things like Epic Comics and Pacific Comics. But then all of them I go by company. And then if it's an artist that I'm really into, like Jim Woodring, for example, I have most of it in Fantagraphics. But if he's done something that I have that's somewhere else, I'll put it in with the Fantagraphics stuff. So all of that artist stays there. And same with, I mean, there's a couple of artists like that. There's not a ton of them, but mostly I go alphabetically by company. And I've got dividers up so I can go right to the letter of the alphabet. And then within that one, so C may have like Caliber Press and a couple other ones that begin with C, and I have those alphabetized. And then within the company itself, I've got the titles alphabetized so I can easily find stuff. And then like you and I have talked about a million times, then I just put like this whole series fits into one bag that goes into the drawer to save me space. But I find that the easiest because if there's something from a company, it's just easier to find that way to some degree. And then the other stuff is just organized like Daredevil and Doctor Strange and Defenders and things like that. Yeah. But it's getting more difficult. You can't see them, but there's a line of comics up on top of these boxes up here that I currently don't have room in the drawers for. So I'm starting to go through and put a bunch of stuff into one bag to kind of make some more room as well. And also start pulling some stuff out to eventually sell or trade or something because I need more room and I can't get bigger than this. I've got to maintain this size of a collection. That's me myself putting that limitation on myself. I can't go bigger than this because it'll get out of control because I know myself. So if it doesn't fit in the cabinets or those boxes, it's got to go, so, and I'm really at that point where I've got to get rid of some things. Right. So.
Okay. Well, yeah, of course. And there's a limitation, like you say. Otherwise, you're going to have to do like Damien does and have a separate room compartment somewhere in storage, which is another commitment you have to make. Not everybody wants to, but sometimes people don't have a choice, so.
I don't like the idea of being cut off from it, though. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, I understand the necessity of it. I totally get it. But I don't like the idea of being cut off on, because for me, it's like, if I'm going to put it in storage where I'm never going to see it, why put it in storage? I can absolutely see why it potentially is a struggle for Damien currently. I can absolutely appreciate that because it would be for me as well, too. Like, what do I do? We don't have the space. We do have some space. Like, it's difficult, man, with this kind of stuff. And then the tension that can build in a relationship, too, right? Like, that can have some tension there, like me and my wife had some intense conversations about this room, for example, where I spend most of my time, she barely comes down into. That aside, we still had some intense conversations about the division of this room, right? So it can really cause some difficulty.
Well, the hope is the storage is temporary.
Yeah, let's hope. Yeah.
Oh, I can't even do the thing. Oh, there you go. Now I can. Okay. Okay, me next.
Yep.
Let's talk about one of the things I picked up on library and read, and it's called Hysteria.
Is this the intense one?
It's not one. It's one of them.
Okay.
It's just beginning of the intense. So it's
Okay.
two of them I've read, which is actually gave me a bit of a heart palpitations.
Oh wow.
Uh, and not on a good like this one is Hysteria. So it's graphic Freud. So we're going to Sigmund Freud's life
Yeah.
in this one, and I wasn't aware there's a few of them. And this is by Self-Made Hero. When is it published? Um, 2015.
Hmm.
It's been quite a while, and it's by Richard Abiganesi and drawings by Oscar Zarate. So I don't know if I butchered their names or, but this is the people I'm talking about. Hello, Andrew Lopez.
Hello.
How are you doing? So Hysteria. So this one is follows the life of what Sigmund Freud has in his life, and it starts as a bit peculiar. So he sits down on a chair, and his hat flows away, and it's been mentioned. It will be mentioned in throughout this. Well, I tell you one thing about this, and particularly, it was extremely strong, but right at the end, it made me confused about stuff.
Hmm.
So Sigmund Freud apparently, I'm not sure how factual it was about him. So Jew, I wasn't aware that he's Jewish. First of all, so he's a Jewish guy who is trying to marry a girl, but because of what his choices of his a line of work wasn't really giving him money, to make or be as popular as he wanted to. So he kind of was in looks of finding what he would be good at and what would make in that time, and particularly era money, that he could marry a girl. It wasn't as a goal for him, but it was one of the things that he was kind of inclined to do. And because of the Nazis and all that stuff, he was in Vienna in that time, so 1800s, 1818 something, 1885 or something like that. One thing to tell you for sure, I'm not sure if it's factually correct, first of all, because I'm not really familiar much of with Sigmund Freud, but was intense enough. So first of all, in here he says that he created cocaine without realizing, and then he was distributing that to the people as the choice of numbing the pains first of all, and he didn't realize how cocaine becomes so addictive,
Hmm.
and then that everybody become crazed by it. Also, this is the scenes with his supposed future wife, and he is unavailable. Like he can't marry her mom. His future wife's mom is a very Orthodox Jew, and she didn't like that. He's even though a Jewish guy, because he's man of sciences, she didn't feel like he is worthy of his of her in the long term. But while he was searching to his what he could do, he was very good by dissecting brain and kind of surgery inside in this way, and he was divulging into a brain and chemistry how everything went, and he came upon a guy which is I never pronounce, and then I can't pronounce name. um I can't find the name now. Of course they don't. And here it shows you how he basically having cocaine himself, just
Hmm.
for good measure to understand things. So so the guy, as I say, on his own ways of finding. So he goes to this place where hysteria has been one of the well-known factors, or one of well-known um, how do you explain the ailments of females.
Mm.
And he went to specific like house, let's say house, which is like almost like a cuckoo house for females, only particularly females, because only particularly females has hysteria in that time.
Hmm.
And there's one clever guy, this guy, uh, um, in here, he was the one who's basically had this whole ideas how to help the females and find out actual
Yeah.
underlying problems,
Mm,
not knowing that he was, while he was doing that, understanding of the hysteria, he was sexually abusing 14-year-olds,
hmm.
because most of them were in that time extremely young girls from very broken families apparently, or ones who has been sexually abused. Come to find out why right later on this, in this comic format. And then just the way they were talking about it and how they were portraying females, like, they have they manic, they, you can't talk to them, you can't understand them, they need to hypnotize them in order to understand what's actually really happened to them. They don't know why they are like having this hysteria, like, and like acting on it. Do you know what I mean? So they
Hmm.
were saying it like it would be, some of them would have been doing it on purpose. And that's when I felt kind of uncomfortable, but
Right.
was curious to see what would end to this kind of the like manic depression, like this is like what they do, like acting on it, convulsions, like they wouldn't be like going all sorts of like motions, and the only way they would be distracted by is like shoving the water up to them or shoving two fingers up they,
Yeah, to
where.
sexually relieve them or something, right?
Yeah,
Wasn't that a big thing?
one method
Give them
was to
orgasms, basically.
yeah, one method was to get this contraption where they would press on their ovaries
Right.
in order to release the tension in their brain. That's one of the other things where of the matter. Also, like he was deciding to press on their bellies in order to do so, and it just it went to the line. As a female itself, myself, reading this kind of matter felt, not saying uncomfortable, but it wasn't. I was horrible to how horrified to understand if that would, like if it was what's happening that time and era for females. It's kind of
Hmm.
like a man would be telling you how you felt and why you felt this way, and there's no other way to be sane. So the minute you have like you acting up on your feelings, you would be locked away, or you wouldn't be normal anymore. And the only other ones, the other females, were to find the other, like when they escaped that house, the only thing what they were doing is was in like Moulin Rouge, like that known area where they were basically doing ungodly things just in order to survive themselves.
Hmm.
So in that sense, it was like, oh my god. But what this creative team didn't have, really, didn't land the ending really well, because as you remember, I was telling you about that scene in the beginning where he sits down and his hat disappears. So we have right the end scene where he's doing the same thing, but then suddenly he jumps in time. This is the scene.
Hmm.
Jumps in time, and the person he's talking now is Princess Diana.
Hmm.
And she's explained to him that in this time when she was alive at that time, that what he were like studying in the time, that how people were perceiving her, well, not her, sorry, what people were perceiving as a psychological issues, like sexual abuse, why this happens, how underlying problems happen to this. So it made me confused. Why would you talk about that in jumping time? Why you would need him to be jumping in time to tell him that, oh, well, okay, yes, you are the high point of understanding what happened. But honestly, it felt like he was just cuckoo, because every single time he was basically talking to himself, why he was divulging himself into understanding what's happening to those females. So it lacked ending the way
Right.
they were like really strongly started it with. And it's complicated matter to talk as well, especially if you're not really, I don't know if it's factually correct, but it
Right.
definitely was interesting to understand and see how people were thinking, maybe let's say in that time and era, because there's some sort of source and facts I read afterwards in on internet to see how it was, and they say he was this creative team were using some factual things
Hmm.
what it really happened. So, but in sense as a reader, especially maybe as a female, felt ashamed maybe, but just felt sorry for those girls what they
Yeah.
had to
Yeah.
come up, that what idea of the female used to be, how it is what you hear all the time when you grow up, that it's the man's world, not females. Well, you never hear that it's a female's world. And then the minute we outspoken ourselves, we become something of our hormones, like, not right, or
Hysterical.
we are overreacting because, we are females, or we have too many of that and this and that. So
Yeah.
it's kind of that. It just made me feel like that way as well. But it's a pity that they didn't land the ending, because
I
with
mean, I
time
wonder.
travel.
I wonder if that's from like. I think sometimes what happens with these people doing something based on historical figures is they
Yeah.
maybe dig so deep into that person's life that they pull out some nugget that makes it
Mhm.
into the story as kind of a thread that for kind
Yeah.
of the common average everyday reader might not know. And then tying it with Princess Diana specifically, there's
Yeah.
got to be something there, having her specifically. And you said what? It was 2015 that it was written.
Yeah.
So it's pretty recent, so it still doesn't quite make sense. Makes me feel like there was some link between the two of them in real life, maybe, or I don't know what, but like some sort of
Maybe.
link there, like some sort of
Well, because
something.
they mention in here that she had anorexia, bulimia, and depression
Right.
and self-harm,
Yeah.
because that's what they, like, that's what it usually happens to females earlier, but they didn't know, because they're saying that it was just hysteria and nothing else was
Right. Right.
mattered. They didn't want it to say anything different, like they weren't even aware of something else to describe that, what people were feeling in that time.
It's
Do you know what I
weird that
mean?
they wouldn't pull a more like modern figure if they wanted to make that link between someone in modern times who was seen as hysterical as a woman or something. It's weird
Mm-hmm.
to pull Princess Diana. I guess I can
Yeah.
sort of understand that though, because she's maybe more well known. If they would have picked somebody else, you run the risk of having it appeal to a smaller group of people who will catch that link, right? But
It didn't even get to the point of them disclosing that they would even need to. The story didn't lend itself to go
right.
to time travel and to explain that, oh, don't worry, Freud, whatever you were doing, you were going towards the right direction, not in the right way maybe, but in the right direction. But then still, why does
Yeah.
the reader really needs to understand that? I don't
Well,
think.
I mean, I think it seems, I haven't read it obviously, but
Yeah.
I wonder if the link was supposed, because I mean, wasn't Diana looked at in that way, like
Yeah.
problematic and all of these things, you
Oh
know what I mean?
yeah.
So it's like this idea of these
Hmm.
things that were happening then are still happening now. There's
Oh no,
not
no.
like, like a link to maybe the necessary to degree as the rest of the book, but it
Yeah.
seems like an odd choice. But yeah,
Yeah,
it
it's
looks
like
great though. I
saying.
love the look of the pages looked
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, yes, she's
Yeah,
internationally
internationally
famous.
famous for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, Hysteria literally means wandering womb. Yeah. So yeah, and it's also another thing I forgot to mention is saying that this girlfriend of his who he's supposed to marry, she was bulimic as well, and
Oh,
he
right.
basically medicated her himself, gave her some drugs. He kind of like felt it was right to give it to her to
Hmm.
make her eat or something like that. So it's just kind of an odd part, but art wise, which I didn't mention because the
It looks awesome.
yeah, gathering material, it's really well drawn. It's
Hmm.
only black. It's like ink wash, it feels to me, or even like maybe black watercolors, but I think it's ink wash with the pencils and stuff like to use, and it's really well drawn, especially in the emotional parts where he, that you put those scenes on the background, especially
Right.
when you wanted him to be in light while he was explaining, and people in the background are still listening. It's really well done.
Hmm.
As I say, it was going so strong, and I could not stop reading it because I kind of wanted to know exactly where the end to this was, because at the end of the day, we kind of were touching his life story, how he began, and his ups and downs, and what he discovered and what they were discovering that time and moment in medical histories. But
Hmm.
it just, as I say, the ending just made it flat
Right.
afterwards. You know what I mean? So it's very difficult to feel kind of excited, or so sort of information was gathered in my brain with the end I'm still questioning about without
Hmm.
realizing if I actually enjoyed it or I didn't.
Yeah.
Because especially in this kind of subject, they're writing about.
Hmm.
Anyway, so yeah, interesting.
Yeah. No, it looks pretty good. I like the
eye
looks
op-
of it quite a bit.
yeah, eye opening for sure.
Yeah, no doubt.
Hmm.
Um. So I've had this first issue forever.
Hmm.
And I finally found the final 3 issues. of a Korean comic called Untouchables.
Mm-hmm.
They're manhwa or manhwa. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. So like
Mm-hmm.
a manga kind of style, but they
Uh-huh.
call it manhwa. And
Oh,
apparently
interesting.
this was an enormously popular series that went on forever and ever,
Oh.
and was kind of focused around this baseball player, but it was also about his relationships, and it was also about, you know, like any good story, it becomes about a whole lot more than that, right? His
Mm-hmm.
relationship with his father is what's kind of focused on in these 4 issues. This is from Eastern Comics in 19. Let's have a look. 1988 from Eastern Comics. This is the
Uh-huh.
only 4 that they did,
Mm-hmm.
and man, it was really good. Like I said, this particular chunk of the story, you don't really get any sort of closure, but they do a
Mm-hmm.
pretty good job of kind of giving you the introduction inside here. Like, listen, this is an ongoing story. It's, you know, I think maybe at the time, maybe it was still going. It brought back the popularity of manhwa to Korea as well. So the whole genre became really popular again based on this book. So they kind of give you like that sense of, don't expect kind of like a fully enclosed story here. You're getting just a sample of what else is out there. This was really, really great. It read very, very easily. So there's his father there. Um, it read very, very easily. It had a really nice style to it. I
Mm-hmm.
love that there's kind of like these manga-ish type of feels to it, but then you get their own styles as well. So our main character here is a pitcher, and he's
Mm-hmm.
practicing with his dad to throw. Like, unfortunately, the only thing he can throw is a fastball, a very, very, very incredibly fast and straight fastball. His
Uh-huh.
dad is getting attacked by this pig, and he basically pummels it to death
Oh,
with his
wow.
fastball to protect his father. His father's an alcoholic. His father has some issues. They're
Mm-hmm.
kind of poor. So this is his one chance to kind of try to break into a team, and his dad is really trying to support him, even though he's been, as you learn later on, he's been pretty abusive to him throughout his whole life. This is kind of like his final. He's trying to do good by his son, and it's a really touching bit of a chunk of a story.
Mm-hmm.
So good, man. I really, really liked it. I started looking for this creator. I don't think I said the name. Hyun Si Lee, I believe is how you pronounce it.
Yep.
Um, but I started looking into the creator just to see what else is out there. I didn't spend a ton of time. I couldn't find a lot of stuff in English because I would easily read a chunk more of this. But for Eastern, this was all they were ever going to do, were these 4 issues. I don't know how long Eastern lasted, but when I was
Mm-hmm.
looking and kind of digging into the company as well, there was a few other titles that they did that I kind of bookmarked on Lone Star as well to try to check out. It's not a company I find very often out there. And like I said, I've had that issue #1 for a couple of years now and have never seen any of the other ones again. So this was kind of nice to find. Just a nice surprise, really good storytelling. I mean, again, what sometimes happens with this stuff is the translation is super clunky, like complete words missing from the translation.
Uh-huh.
Nobody kind of like proofread it to a degree where, yes, okay, that's a good translation, but read it out loud in English because it doesn't make sense what you're trying to say. Like the kind of wherewithal to kind of reword some of this stuff, right? It seems like they were trying to be really to really honor the original language by not messing with it too much, but it could have used with a little bit of messing with. But again, I love the style, and again, from that previous one, you still get like these big chunky marks to make up his hair and things. And I
Yeah.
mean, every shot of this kid, he's got his collar up and stuff, and he's got that scowl on his face. Um, it's really, really good stuff. I'll show you a couple of more pages here. And I
Mm-hmm.
love the covers on these are outstanding. You know, so
Mm-hmm.
here he is on the pitcher's mound. Um, see if I can find a good couple. And of course, there's a love interest. She's going to get married to someone else. They've known each other since they were kids.
Mm-hmm.
He's madly in love with her. One of the tricks I haven't seen too much, but when there's these kind of shocking moments where they see each other, they get this kind of target in the background to give you that kind of sense of wooziness or whatever. So
Yeah.
really, yeah, really entertaining. Well worth keeping your eyes out for, even if you find it online. To give it a shot and read it. Yeah, like I said, what it definitely did was I want more. I wish you would have gone further with it. I wish they would have done more. But I guess it's really hard when you're these smaller companies at the time to not only kind of keep the rights to it, but I don't know how much money they were making off of these things. I don't know the history of Eastern, how long they lasted or anything. So, but yeah, really nice surprise.
Cool.
Yeah.
Hey, Chaos.
Hey, Chris.
Howdy, Paolo.
Hello, Paolo.
And Damien says, Chaos Toffa. And then Sadducee Collections now costing much money. Interest.
That's why you got to sell.
Yeah. Yeah, I looked it up on Wikipedia. Man is still busy doing cartooning stuff, but it's most of them in Korean. So unfortunately, it's nothing. And then it's like he's famous for knowing that manga, whatever that how you pronounce
manhwa.
that.
Yeah.
Manhwa.
Yeah.
So he's still working pretty hard.
It's interesting how also like a style will kind of start to build out of build out of a certain area and kind of feed into other areas, and they'll kind of take it on and do their own little twists. Like that front cover for that first issue is just outstanding, like it's just so great.
That tiger looks like a perfect tattoo everybody likes to have.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I'm getting it next week.
Well, you have quite a few. You never know what kind of tiger is standing behind your arm.
Yeah. Yeah, right here, right in.
Imagine
the jaw, the mouth right there. Yeah.
Like that. Yeah. I'll show you a couple of few things which I have not yet read, unfortunately. But it also seems to be quite intriguing reads, but quite serious as well. So, Forwards by Lisa Mars. Who is Arsenal Pulp? I've never heard of this publisher. Yeah. Vancouver. Look at it.
Hey, look at that.
Yeah, you see? All Canadians. You Canadians are everywhere.
That's right. We are.
The Canada. Anyway,
Canada.
Yeah, this is the story of two women, both strangers.
Say it 3 times and I appear in your house.
Yeah, looking forward ways to move forward in their lives. So it's all LGBTQ kind of type of storyline, which I have not yet read. And then Manuel Fior, The Interview.
Oh.
From the author of 5,000 kilometers per second.
I know this one. Yeah. I haven't read it, but I know it.
So Fantagraphics.
Chris had read it, possibly.
Fantagraphics books, March 2017, and printed in Hong Kong. And it has really nice art.
Yeah.
Black and white once again. It has this yellowish color. So Italy 2048, the one generation feels old, tired, and finished. The younger advances new values and models of cohabitations in the family. So kind of, I don't know what it's all about, but it looks intriguing. And I was about to read, but I ran out of kind of dear time of mine. So that's the ones I haven't read yet. I'm gonna go in that serious note, and I'll end up in light note of Marvel.
Okay.
Because let's just get over it. So
yeah.
This is a very freshly published. The book I'm about to talk about. 2022. No, 2021. Sorry, copyrighted on 2021. It's by Drawn Quarterly book.
Canadian.
And this is the book cover.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Fucking hell. That cover didn't scare you off? Oh, my God.
Yeah, I probably looked at this instead. Christ. I think I looked at this instead.
Fucking hell. It's called our... Oh, my God. All right, let's hear it. Jesus.
Yeah. It's really beautiful in here.
Pastoral. Yeah.
Yeah, but... Okay, so it has even the warning on this book. Okay, so warning. Yeah. The book references and portrays difficult scenes, including childhood sexual abuse, and may be triggering for some readers.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately, this is a story about from a girl called Emily Carrington. And in 1982, oh, look at that! Who's
Oh,
this?
so
Who's that? Eh?
a true story.
Sorry,
Oh,
he's
hello.
Get
invading
in.
my space and my
Yeah,
limelight. Hi,
Well,
Damon.
you can get back in the limelight.
Okay.
right.
Okay.
Sorry to jump in at the wrong moment, but
No, it's fine. Don't
it'll
worry.
work out.
It's fine. So yeah, um, I think this book needs to be read by every single person
Oh
and
my God.
educate themselves, because it's absolutely horrifying. So a girl who is brought up into very happy environment, but ends up into situations where she will never understand how it happened, and she's kind of like narrating in herself in some speech bubbles. And from the get-go, you'll realize this is not the good ending story,
Hmm.
and this is not a story where it will cheer you up right at the end or in the middle or in the back, but it'll start to feel frustration first of all, and second of all, how young children can be used and abused by adults, no matter where they are, next to you, surrounding you, or whoever it is. And it's really hard to speak about this because it's absolutely shattering to know that this girl had to go through this thing. So
Hmm.
she's like in a family of a very happy family, but the family had to split up. She had a brother, and but because the parents were splitting apart, they had to decide, the kids, in that right moment, which is to who you want to live with. She decided to live with the dad. Unfortunately, the dad is not really a very supportive human being. They live in Prince Edward Island in Canada. Is that
Hmm. Yep. Yep.
am I
Prince
correct?
around. Yep.
Yeah. So they living in there, and while they struggled with their life, every single day life, the two of them, they have people, friends surrounding them, which were basically the culprits of her abuse. And the man called Richard who was doing that. And then she's basically trying to explain this story to you via this comic book. And it's really, honestly, I was angry, confused. I was rooting for to knowing how, if it is going to be anything good for her. But unfortunately, only you would think after she escapes the abuser, she will be helped by her going life. She had to basically decide to confront her abuser, but the judicial system had decided not to help her either.
Right.
It's one of the drawings in the classroom, and she was really not understanding what's happening to her. And most of the time she felt like she was trapped in her own brain. So she was 14 at that time. um, and honestly it was kind of like terrifying to read, but honestly needs to be read, because honestly, if I would have been a 14 years old, I could actually clearly understand what would happen in my own brain and that time, how you're not understanding a lot of things, what's happening around in you, what people who are telling you are supposed to be, like your friends, because you feel naive most of the time, and I'm not understanding, especially if the people who's abusing you is like that's friends next
Hmm.
to you, who you see them every day. And then of course she employs the lawyer, and I'm just breaking down the story in quite big chunks. But she goes for the lawyer after 20 odd years. But this lawyer basically turns around and makes it to a point where she cannot go after him, because the law it's been exhausted, like that term, or when you can get involved with that accusations and stuff. So and it happened 1982, and only in 2008 the law changed, because when you are in that time in 1982, the 14-year-old which was basically raped was still okay, apparently. And the law changed only in 2008, that they changed to an age of 16, that you can actually um, prosecute people who has basically abused you and raped you and whatever that. It's not an easy comic book to read for sure, but as I say, it's be really eye-opening and very helpful the person itself, who basically by doing this managed to tell her story finally to everybody. She wasn't afraid to disclose this information anymore, because this information has weighed down so much in her life that she wasn't able to basically live for, move forward with things. But and she also doesn't have the ending like what we were expecting. This is a judicial system. She was kind of portraying how she was looking for it and nobody was helping her. So, but she has the words afterwards saying that some sort of kind of compensation happened for her, but not in the way what she was expecting to have. So yeah, like extremely difficult story to read.
Yeah,
but
intense, man.
but it's extremely necessary, I think, to have this on the bookshelves. I don't know how can you approach your children talking about this in particular story is one of those kind of areas where none of us would like to be like mentioning about it or even thinking about it, but it does happen,
Yep.
unfortunately. So, and it's a very brave person can do this and explain this and put that word out and give it to us to be. And I'm very surprised my library had this, and it had it in section where they don't even disclose saying if it's for adults or not. But I think it's a necessary point to be in discussion, that like people or kids should be well aware that you can say no to anybody, you know what I mean, and that you will not be chastised,
Right.
if something happens to you and or you didn't agree with something. But for her situation, she felt like she really didn't have no choice. There was no way to go. She didn't have really good relationship with mother. She didn't have really great relationship with father. But she was just trying to get along with things. But people like Richard took away everything from her childhood. You took away her confidence in anything. And it seems to be throughout the life where she continued, after a while when she escaped him. In generally, she still had to be going through that kind of like uncomfortable sexual life after, where she even says that working relationships with bosses wasn't going as well as she was thinking would be. So yeah, I absolutely, as I say, very hard subject. But I'm glad I took my time, because she even thanks in here, saying that like, you're reading this, I'm telling to somebody, and thank you very much for taking time to do this, because it's not easy to disclose this or finally just get this little secret out of her brain. So yeah, not something
Brutal,
I could,
dude.
not something I should
Intense
have.
week.
Yeah, not something I wanted to like. I thought I would be choosing. I mean, I could have disclosed and left this book wandering by my table, never been read, because I feel if I felt uncomfortable about it. I felt uncomfortable while I was reading it, but I think it's necessary for me as a reader to just to see what other people go through also, but also kind of like even talk to you guys about it. And not many you hear that people talk about this subject in generally, but lots of girls go through that. I'm talking girls
Yeah.
because I know girls more than boys. Girls go through a lot of throughout their lives, and a lot of us don't understand many things, how and which way we can protect ourselves, especially when you are in teenage years where your hormones are raging and you don't understand why if you dress up this way, it's not appropriate, or like you put yourself in a situation you think should be everything perfectly nice and comfortable, especially if the person is much older and wiser than you. Now that's what you would perceive when you are this young,
Right.
because the person who abused her was 40 years old and she was 14.
Right. And they don't have
So
to be that old. So we've had to talk
yeah.
to our kids about this twice. So
Oh,
just
okay.
recently, like 2 weeks ago, so
Mhm.
the Taekwondo place that they used to go to, one
Mhm.
of the instructors got arrested recently for sexually
Whoa.
inappropriate behavior against some of the students. Thankfully, both of my children were not involved in that, but that was one of the places that we sent Lillian to because we wanted her to gain some kind of skills as far as like, this is what happened. And I've talked to her many times. I'm like, you kick him in the fucking balls and you rake his fucking eyes out and you scream as loud as you've ever screamed in your entire life and you don't even worry about it, right? Like, so we've had those talks, unfortunately. And then when Jaden was younger, he was at this mini university summer camp and this magician was brought in and apparently he was arrested a short time after for doing something similar. So it's like, and again, Jaden was okay. Everything was fine. But it's those kind of like, so we've had to have those conversations with our kids a couple of times. And then it even kind of hit our industry too, where someone got arrested, this international sting operation, like literally international sting operation, because he was helping produce and distribute child pornography and bestiality. So it unfortunately has been a part of our world already. So I would agree with you that it's important to know this stuff and to know how to have dialogue with your kids about it. And important to just have dialogue with anybody about it because it's an unfortunate, fucking disgusting and repelling reality out there. And, you know, it makes me feel all sorts of things. One of the main things is rage, you know what I mean? Because it's just fucking disgusting, right? So it's an unfortunate conversation to have, but I mean, it is super, super, super crucial, which is why we've had these kind of conversations with strangers and people you may know, with Lillian especially. Because being a girl, like you're saying, that's something that we've talked to her a number of times about throughout the years. Like, doesn't always, yes, there's stranger danger having those conversations, but sometimes that you have to be aware of your surroundings, even if it's with people that you know what I mean? Like, because you just have to be aware as a human being, regardless of your gender. You know, you have to be aware that there's fucking horrible people out there. So.
Yeah, it's what horrifies me as well, that she had to go through also, you know, she wanted to get justice for herself and she wanted to prevent people to have, you know, like him next to somebody else's, because they say if it's one time happens, usually serialized. It's never once. And then she's like, I'm trying to. And then she spent all the fortune to get this lawyer, and the lawyer basically played around with her without making the case. And while because of the time periods it happened so long, she couldn't go after him anymore because statutory rights,
the statute of limitations,
limitations was passed. Yeah, past that. So she had to basically find another lawyer who basically told her to go after that lawyer to get the justice, and she basically ended up not having full. So imagine, she said, I felt about suicide so many times, but I was like thinking, how did you just get along with this stuff? You know, it's just impossible. You don't have any. It doesn't look like she had any support system whatsoever. And in that time, I'm not surprised in some ways, because everything was looked at in different points of view. You know, like it wasn't as disclosed. It is not, information was blown at you at all times. So, and then she goes to forward her rights to be kind of like, you know, she needs to go after him, and she can't because the system let her down and let her down once again. And then how you move along with that life, you know? And she just says, I was happy because pages came through and I had time to do this. And actually, this is what helped me a lot to get this information out. You know, like give that things. This is the only the way I can do it. And she's continues living on, you know, life, whatever she can have a life of, and she's continuing drawing as apparently as well. So if there's any more information about her, it says grew up in rural Prince Edward Island, Canada. She's done illustrations for Orca books and was longlisted for CBC Poetry Prize for her poem Stone in 2017. Currently, Emily lives in Gulf Islands, where she grows a lot of her own food, works on comics, watches Star Trek reruns, and trains her pets, laying hands to do the tricks. So there's some sort of light at the end of the tunnel. But yeah, very crazy topic. As I say, sometimes it's when I said to you about picking up the books from library without looking, that's what happens. But maybe it's a good thing, to be honest.
Yeah,
it is uncomfortable reading about it, but I think, you know, it's good to talk about it as well, because I understand when I was growing up, because there was situations I was led by my own friends and my family next to, where I went into situations I felt completely uncomfortable, but it was enough and just understanding of saying no or run away
Yeah.
or not be in that situation in the first place. If you're going to place me in that situation, I'm not going to be there.
Yeah, that's right.
And manage to save in that points. And I always say to my all other friends, be with somebody you actually trust, not just say it's your friend, because a friend doesn't mean that is fully going to be there for you when this kind of situation happens, especially.
Right.
Which doesn't happen. A
Yeah,
lot
no,
of
totally.
people, unfortunately, doesn't happen. Okay.
Intense, man.
Sorry, Damien, for that kind of bombardment.
Now I don't want to talk about the next comic I had now.
Sorry, I just had to get over it because I have some happy notes, which I really
Yeah.
like. My Marvels are very happy notes, but yeah, I just wanted to make sure I speak about it as well.
Yeah,
because it had to be done. But
Well, I mean, I was gonna talk about a comic book, but the writer in it is quite misogynistic, and I feel bad about doing that. So I'm going to talk about something else.
Yeah, just you talk about whatever you want to talk about. Don't worry about it. Okay. Do you want me to put
I have my little window, so you can open that. So this is written by Roy Thomas. So I'm sure there's hidden misogyny in here, but there's nothing blatant.
Okay.
Well, except that there's only one female character in the whole book. But
shucks.
So this is the climax of the Kree-Skrull War.
Oh, yes.
Which was perhaps the first big event at Marvel. Unintentionally, it sort of just happened between Neil Adams and Roy Thomas, kind of plotting in the loose, vague way that Marvel does over a series of issues. And then Neil Adams kind of had too much on his plate and couldn't do the final issue, so it was drawn by John Buscema.
Oh,
but
cool.
I was reading this series with my daughter, or parts. I decided it was too long, so we sort of jumped in the middle because she loves making fun of cosmic Marvel stuff now and how illogical and silly it all is.
Okay.
So we do that as entertainment at night before bedtime. But basically, actually, it's a really hard plot to explain. But basically, the whole Kree-Skrull stuff that the Avengers involved with turns out to be all the manipulations of the Intelligence Supreme or Supreme Intelligence of the Skrulls.
Cool, look at that.
Who has, he's very attractive.
Great drawing. Yeah, it looks great. Those colors really, contrast nicely there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know if anywhere, maybe John Byrne or someone has explored what goes on with him, but he's a machine, but he's the sum total of all the great geniuses throughout the history of the Kree. And one of the things we make fun of is this intense Kree-Skrull war is between 3 galaxies. So the Skrulls are that my daughter's really into astronomy right now. The Skrulls are over in the Andromeda galaxy, which is 500,000 light years away from us. They don't mention that in here, but and then they say the Skrull are in another galaxy on the other side of us, equally as far away. So why these two cultures have to fight over enormous, lengths of space that if you could go at the speed of light would take you a million years to cross. Anyway, so this guy Ronan, I don't know why he's named Ronan. That he's an accuser of the Kree Empire. He has usurped the Supreme Intelligence. So the Supreme Intelligence has been manipulating Earthlings to get his power back and get rid of the accuser. And according to the Supreme Intelligence, both the Kree and the Skrull have stopped evolving, whereas humans have all this incredible potential. So he kind of evolves up Rick Jones. I don't know if you are both familiar with Rick Jones.
No.
He's everywhere in Silver Age Marvel. He was the kid that Bruce Banner was saving that turned him into the Hulk.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And then he was a sidekick of and so then he appeared in a lot of Hulk comics. And then he was a sidekick of Captain Marvel for a while and kind of became his second Bucky during the Steranko period of
Right.
Captain
Okay.
America. And then he and Captain Marvel got linked together so that when one of them was on Earth, the other one was in the negative zone. And they had these bands on their arms that they hit together called the nega bands.
Okay.
And that allowed them to switch places.
Right.
So essentially, I think it was Roy Thomas making Marvel's Captain Marvel like the original Captain Marvel, says Shazam and trades places with a little boy. So he hits the nega bands together. So to stimulate Rick's potential as a superhuman, the Supreme Intelligence sends him into the negative zone, where Annihilus, of course, attacks him. But then Rick is able to shoot beams out of his mind.
Awesome! Look at that. That's fantastic.
It's just because we humans have all this potential, he can just
yeah.
And various groups are in different galaxies, but they eventually are going to all get brought together. It also has wonderful. This is John Buscema art, inked by Tom Palmer, who I think is one of the best.
Palmer is amazing.
Silver and Bronze Age inkers.
Yeah.
He also inked, I think, the Adams work at this time.
This reimagining on this digital format, they look fantastic, doesn't it?
It really does look good. Yeah.
It really does suit the art from this period. Modern art is less fun to do on a digital platform, I think, than this stuff. So then Rick Jones's power is unleashed. So when he's being attacked by a bunch of Kree, he summons the Golden Age superheroes.
Wow.
That I guess that Roy Thomas felt they had copyright ability.
Right.
Yeah. So Captain America and Namor from the Golden Age, Human Torch, the android Human Torch. Yeah. This is I always forget there was a Vision in the Golden Age. Jack Kirby created him.
Oh, is it? Didn't know.
Yeah, he short-lived, very, very early Golden Age. And Flaming Skull, I think, is his name. It makes you realize so much of the Silver and Bronze Age Marvel was just repeats, or taking similar characters, because that just seems like the Ghost Rider.
Yeah.
What about the guy with the fin?
I forget what he's called. He might just be called the Fin.
But
Tiger Shark, his Tiger Shark seems to come. That villain Tiger Shark. He seems to come from it.
Yeah.
And this guy, I think, is called the Fighting American, because of course you dress up like that when you want to represent your country. And this guy, I'm trying to remember what this guy is called. Anyway,
isn't it like some knight or something?
Maybe he looks like Darkhawk, Nighthawk. He looks like Nighthawk from this Bronze Age, but I don't think he is.
Yeah, like the Defenders used to have one as well. Anyway, that's fine.
You lugs picked on the wrong guys this time. Americans are nobody's patsies. Americans, what are? They're in another galaxy. These fictional characters created out of his brain.
Yeah.
Let's see if they say. Yeah, he is called the Blazing Skull.
Oh, there you go.
Anyway, this stood out to me in my memory as a kid as this amazing moment because they brought back the Silver Age character.
Yeah.
Everybody draws him on fire. I don't know if I'm pretty sure this guy's the Vision, but they don't say his name there.
Yeah.
But he can travel through magical mist so that people can't grab him. The Fin. This guy's the Fin. As for me, nobody ever accused me of being great shakes out of water. But if Namor can squeak by, so can the Fin.
You see?
And of course, most of these heroes were created by artists who were basically still teenagers, right? Back in the Golden Age.
Mm-hmm.
Does he say his name here? I guess he doesn't.
Mm-mm.
It's funny how often I forget that. You know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
think because I see them now talking about their past, I just continually forget that there's so many writers and creators at the time that were just younger. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that.
Yep.
You know, they weren't 50-year-old men back then writing this
Right.
stuff. You know,
Yeah.
I forget that.
Yeah,
Mm.
a lot of them, you know, like because I've been listening to a bunch of those interviews on Comic Historian. A lot of them started while they were still in high school. They started getting
Yeah.
Yeah.
jobs, you know,
That
because
makes
there
absolute
was no idea of going to college or doing anything like that. You
Right.
just start finding jobs. So a lot of them felt kind of lucky at the time to find these jobs. Even though later they all regretted it.
Right.
Mhm.
Right.
So here, eventually, Rick
Reveal.
Jones' power freezes the two armadas of the two galaxies. Of course, they're a million light years apart, so I don't know. It doesn't seem that threatening to me, but my daughter keeps talking about that.
Mhm.
So in all of this, I guess, was started by this evil politician who was railing people against
Nothing new.
aliens
Right.
and stopping the Avengers from doing stuff because they worked with aliens. And then he is revealed to be the missing Skrull from. There were 4 Skrulls in the Fantastic Four #2, and 3 of them got turned into cows, and this guy got
right.
missed.
Yeah.
So he's been around all the time, being a politician in America.
You see how it comes around, eh?
Yeah.
All those cows.
And then he, through the power of Rick Jones, gets turned back into a Skrull, and the crowd attacks him because he's just been telling the crowd to kill aliens, so they kill him.
Come up and.
So-
And that's the striking thing too. The Avengers have no problem killing Krees and Skrulls.
Right.
You know, any vows about not killing people do not go for sentient aliens.
Because this is the next story of the Marvel will be this new Skrull story where they employ
in the Marvel
Marvel
Universe.
Cinematic Universe. So the Skrulls will be there.
That should be fun. They already introduced them in the Captain Marvel movie, I believe.
Yeah, they've been around for a little bit. Yeah.
The Kree was introduced as well. Don't forget.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That was kind of a seminal movie for all the cosmic stuff that could be coming.
Everybody was screaming that Nova should be introduced because it's like kind of integral part as well.
Right.
But
Well, they already have the Nova Corps introduced in Guardians.
Yeah, Nova Corps was introduced. They was introduced in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. In fact, my daughter and I were watching the Guardians of the Galaxy a little while ago, and she immediately said, "Haha, that's the Green Lanterns." It's amazing how keyed in she is to all this stuff.
Yeah.
Of course, Rick Jones loses his power, and he and Captain Marvel are merged together again. I think it was Roy Thomas who liked that idea. So I think once Jim Starlin came along and took over Captain Marvel, he undid that again. So anyway, a fun issue. And it's all wrapped up by
Nick Fury.
Nick Fury. Whoops.
Just press once, maybe.
Who references the negative
Freak
people you never saw before in your life. You expected maybe the fabulous furry Freak Brothers.
Amazing.
I read somewhere, is it true, guys? Maybe you heard it as well, that Samuel Jackson won't be Nick Fury anymore.
I hadn't heard that.
Did I go bonkers? Or
I read somewhere. Getting up there. Maybe he's just tired of doing that kind of role.
I read something. I mean, I'm just now the information coming to my brain, but something saying somebody's not happy that they want to replace him or something like that. I don't know what they're gonna do.
Yeah,
but
kill him off in the movie and get a new guy in there.
Oh, you don't like Samuel Jackson?
I love him, but I mean, it's I think he's fantastic. I've always liked him as an actor, but I mean, I can also understand the need to potentially want to move on and not do it anymore. So,
true.
He kind of helped redeem those movies or make those movies more palatable to me when they first started coming out. Having him as a consistent character and someone with charisma and everything.
I was just surprised to see him in that and Star Wars, you know, after seeing his other roles and
Yeah.
Curse and a Blue Streak. It's like, what? He's wow, that's pretty odd.
Yeah, he got pretty mainstreamed, I guess.
He
A more
he was
edgy.
here at one point for a movie, and he does not fuck around. If you
really?
call him to set and you're not ready, he lost it on the director a number of times. All the crew loved him because he would chew out the executive producer and chew out the director. So the crew just fucking loved him. Like, but he was not not in the mood for any fucking around. Like, if you're not ready, I'm out of here. I show up, we do this, then I go back to my trailer. There was, you know, I'm sure he was thrilled to be in Winnipeg shooting a movie. So.
Do you think that's just personality, or does it also reflect his position in the industry where
I think it's
they're
honestly
lucky to have him, kind of thing?
It's a level of professionalism that he's just used to with these movies. Like, I'm used to things being ready. I'm not starting out my career. I'm now an established name. Like, you got to be ready for me. You've called me. You're paying me this money. Yes, but I expect you to kind of be ready and let's do this. You know, he was a great guy to us as the crew. Like, he was very nice to us.
Nice.
Well, he's a great actor. I love him.
He hated those other people, which was awesome.
Was that a movie we would have heard of since?
I honestly, and I'm not saying this because I'm playing a game. I honestly don't remember what it was called. I'd have to look online to see. This was quite a few years ago at this point. I want to say like 8 or 9 years ago, possibly. I really don't remember. They honestly really start blurring together all of these.
When you're on a crew, are you even aware of like what the whole story is, or are you just like focused on what your job is in this scene and you don't know?
Sometimes, like on that one, I didn't really pay much attention to it because I was on just the grip crew, so I wasn't even working necessarily near the camera. But when I started keying and stuff, becoming the head of department, then you're very, very aware. Like, I have to know what's going on, so I have to know what to prepare for. So
then they probably give you a copy of the script, and
at the beginning you get a copy of the script, and exactly right, and you have to follow it and make sure that you know what's going on to some degree. Anyway,
so how many things have you stolen?
How many have I? Oh yeah, no, none. They send everything. The thing is, especially nowadays, like even to us in the office, everything that comes to you is watermarked. It's watermarked with your name. So if it gets out there and gets traced right back to you, it's like you don't mess around with this stuff. Like, there's a heavy level of privacy around.
No, I mean by props, you know, like props. How many props have you?
That chair that I took a picture of that I posted on Twitter recently, that came from a movie set. I didn't steal it. It was given to me, but that came from a movie. Yeah. Some people that I know in the sets department, they were like, we're getting rid of this. Do you want it? I'm like, shit, yeah, I do. There was a sofa as well, but we didn't have room for it. So
that fish, it was a fish on it, yes? On
some embroidered, some embroidery. And the sofa was the exact same thing, that kind of 50s style with embroidery on the back. I really wanted it. We just didn't have space for it, so that got given somewhere else.
Yeah, it's a better way of saying souvenirs.
Souvenirs, yeah, that's right, yeah.
Yeah. Nice. We should have asked for signature, you know, and then tattoo it and say, look, I have a proof. I've seen him.
Yeah. Nah. We've lost her.
What is going on?
Oh, she's here. We can still hear you.
No, yeah, my camera is going cuckoo nuts.
You're being censored.
Yeah.
Because you talked about stealing things from Hollywood.
Hollywood has come to get you.
I know. Sorry.
You're back now. We can see you.
Yeah, but it's not the right camera.
Oh.
I don't know how to change that.
Maybe unplug it and plug it back in again.
Yeah.
So
it looks fine though.
Yeah, it looks good.
That's not the camera. I don't know where the plug is. I just leave it this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Do I look better?
No, it looks great.
The camera loves you. Don't worry.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll melt the partner. Okay, is that?
Although every star should have their own personal light person.
Yes.
Wait, you mean this?
Yeah, there you go.
It's too bright. Okay, Terrence, it's your turn, is it?
Yeah, sure. So one I've been waiting for a long time, and I finally found the last issue. Mackenzie Queen, and I'm happy to report that I wasn't disappointed.
Yay.
It was really really fun. Little 5, like So much fun. There's talk at the last issue of there was talk of doing a spin-off series on this Ududu character, but also more Mackenzie Queen stories. I don't think those ever saw the light of day. I would have easily, one of those that I would gladly read another 12-issue run or a couple of more miniseries or however they wanted to do it. So the whole thing started getting published in 1985, but this first issue he drew in 1983, I think is what they said. So it was early stuff that he had done. And this was what I didn't know. This was the first thing from Matrix Graphics. So Matrix Graphics out of Montreal, Quebec, Canada. And then Bernie Moreau, Canadian as well, too. Just a really, the other thing that was really nice about this one, it's on this heavier, really kind of, I guess the word is toothy kind of paper, this newsprint, but it's really beefy. And it's also a nice thick issue as well. And honestly, like you can see, it's one of those great series to see an artist kind of develop, because you get this stuff from 1983 that has some really great things. The basic premise is there's these two aliens from another world that are coming with this book of power, basically to save, to give to someone on Earth who's going to save not only the world, but the universe. Like, look at that. That's a great panel. Really cool stuff. Some nice silhouettes. And that's the very, very basic premise. So when they first come to Earth, one is sent to kind of hunt for this person, and the kind of the evil alien race, they can take over the bodies, in this case taking over the body of a bear that's going to attack him to kill him. Some nice lettering there as well too. And it just kind of goes from there, and we get pages like this too, which is just fantastic stuff. So it really has a lot going for it right out of the gate. And I was very, very excited. And then here's our Mackenzie Queen character. So he's kind of, at one time in his life, he was a kind of a busker, I guess, and a songwriter. And he kind of meets an alien at one point who gives him all this power. He sings him a bunch of songs, and it re-energizes this alien. This alien gives him this candle and this magic phrase that he has to say, solstet etio, and that gives him this power. But if he absorbs too much, he's got to release some of it. So he has some very, very basic magical powers. So a really good setup. And then we got to issue number 2, which is now the modern stuff. And it really, I was a little nervous because it lost some of that energy right out of the gate. The paper stock is still really nice. It's not as big and toothy, but we get our other character, this Ududu, who we find out afterwards is going to be kind of like, it's going to be his kind of version of Wong for Doctor Strange, his kind of guy who's going to help him understand the book, help him how to harness this power, and help him defeat this alien race, basically. So thankfully, it picks up again in issue 3, 4, and 5. There's more comedic elements that kind of get into it as well, too. But honestly, this was really impressive. It makes me kind of want to take a closer look at Bernie Moreau in a lot more stuff. Like as I was saying in the video yesterday, I know about the Jam. I've seen the Jam every once in a while. I've never read any of it. It makes me want to pick some of that up and give it a shot. So even with that hiccup, though, we'll just jump to issue number. So the other bonus is it started gaining traction with creators too. So in the last couple of issues, Steve Bissett does covers for this series on the issue number 4 and issue number 5. So then when we kind of jump to the final issue, he's got a Matt Howarth, little bit of Matt Howarth vibe to him as well with his art. But again, he still does some playing with pages and layouts, and I love this playing with the white space, and I love this, like this blast that's coming from this tuning fork, seeing this kind of pointillist shading or shadow behind him, I think is a really nice touch. So it's so cool to see an artist kind of develop their skills over the course of a series, and then kind of this is the evil alien race, so still being kind of playful with the art style and stuff. So Yeah, very, very recommended. It took a long time to find all these, but I would say keep your eyes out for it. It's one of those that's out there somewhere. That's kind of a treasure, and this is really nice too. This line work and creating this negative space there, I thought was really great too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, super fun series. Didn't disappoint. Read it one after the other,
That's
and
very nice.
loved every minute of it. So
So how long did it take you to get this?
a few years, a couple of years, I think. I think this might have been the very first one that I grabbed,
Uh-huh.
because seeing Stephen Bissett and going, oh, what the hell is this? And because it was bagged, and I never looked into it, I never looked inside. I just assumed that it would be something that Bissett was involved with, so I was expecting some of his art inside.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that I was disappointed when I opened it up, but it didn't like blow me away.
Yeah.
But then they just started popping up. I think I ended up having to get one copy from Lone Star as well too, and then there's his the Jam from Matrix Graphics as well. So and then in this fifth issue, I think we're now into 1986 with this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 1986. They talk about some of the other titles that they've got going. And he talks about, if you want to send in samples to us. So they're starting to kind of look at expanding their comics line, but very, very, very slowly. They don't seem to be one of the publishers that was like, okay, it's 1986, let's throw everything at the wall. I think they announced like 2 or 3 new titles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's 3: New Triumph, The Jam, and Dragon Star. So they're kind of taking it easy with what they're going to put out there, so they don't strain themselves. But such a fun series, man. Really, really good.
Cool. Well, I'm glad it was rewarding right at the end. Huh?
Yeah,
It's good because when you're waiting for this long, you have this
Yeah.
anticipation of
That's right.
something, and
You
then
never
sometimes it
know.
grows into something you're like, oh my god, I'm gonna be disappointed right from the beginning. But
Right.
I'm glad you didn't
Amazes
know.
me. I've never heard of it before at all,
Yeah,
other
yeah,
than from you.
yeah.
You come up with
Yeah, and I
those
mean, when I saw it, that was
companies.
the first time I'd heard of it too. Like I'd
Yeah,
never,
Yeah,
obviously, I know the name, but of Bernie Moreau, but I'd never heard of this either.
right.
yeah. I'm surprised as how many companies there were in that time as well. I know the
So
popularity was
many, man.
but it's like
Yeah.
the well that keeps on giving. You never know where you're gonna drag it out of it.
Yeah,
Because it seems to be like people were trying out, and it's nice though because
yeah, totally.
you see those little gems like you pluck them out of, and
Just flexing
thankfully,
their creative muscles, right? Like just
yeah,
trying stuff and being adventurous. And I mean, that's one of the bonus sides of it being such a boon, I guess, at the time. Like you're getting people giving it a shot. I mean, what their ideas were when they gave it that shot, they may have had visions of grandeur, but it's
Right.
nice that they had a platform and the ability to give it a shot since there were so many companies. But I'm assuming there was a bunch of those people that just assumed they were going to get filthy, stinking rich too, right? We're going to nail it. Black and white. Let's do it.
Or just have a nice, solid career
Yeah.
independently publishing comics the way Dave Sim
Mhm.
did.
Yeah, exactly.
I
Yeah.
imagine a
Mm.
lot of people saw him as like the way it might work out.
Yep.
Of course, he's broke
Unfortunately-
now.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that doesn't happen as quick and easy like we all hope. But thankfully, people decided to publish stuff and we're
Yeah,
lucky
totally.
enough to read that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to happy places. Well, sad story, but happy place.
Does that mean Daredevil?
Yes.
Yeah.
You see how predictable am I? But yeah, I've been reading Daredevil quite a bit, and I'm
The
actually quite
unhappiest of Marvel superheroes.
yeah. But I've been finding like my Daredevil run is gappy, but I thought in this kind of like 88 something like that, I was quite diligent to picking up quite a few issues, but it seems to be I have quite a few gaps, which is unfortunate. But I keep on, like I'm just gonna read whatever I have. It seems to be. So this is Daredevil hunted by Bengal, and it's this creature with this crazy things called tools.
Wolverine.
Well, yeah, you would think, but it actually and you'll show you later. It looks more than Elektra.
Oh, okay.
Mm.
So this is by a writer who's an artist, I think, Fabian Nicieza, or is it a writer?
Got me on that one.
Nicienza is a writer.
He's a writer, is he? Oh,
Yeah.
because he's famous for that.
He replaced Chris Claremont, I believe,
Yeah.
on X-Men.
Yes, there you go.
He
That's why
was an editor, and it was the time where the editors could give themselves the juicy jobs.
Uh-huh. And the penciler is a Ron Lim, and
Mhm.
Jim Sanders the third is the inker.
The third.
Um,
Oh, good.
Wow.
Oh, and then
Ron Lim went on to be very popular.
Mhm.
yeah, and Bob
For a while.
Sharon is colorist. Yeah, so it's nice to see them all here. Lovely placed, everybody in there. Anyway, so we started this unfortunate story, like you always Americans, and where we're not supposed to be. Viet Cong situation we're having here, and you know, not really good things happens. And the story of the guy who's basically suffer for PTSD, I guess, he's waking up, he's not knowing how to do, but he's the one that, like one of the good guys from this band of crew who were in that time in Vietcong. So he's waking up, sweat and tears, almost to the point, and he's looking for a telephone to call his friend. The only person who, well, the only people who can understand him is one of his buddies. So the phone rings, and the guy who answers sees Bengal, and he gets killed, or kind of literally slaughtered, really. And the guy disappears, and the phone call ends up into saying in Vietnamese, "Did the jungle breathe?" And in that sense, the guy have choked almost, and he started looking for Daredevil as a help point. And very, very crazily quickly, we understand the story behind what happened in that he is the kid who survived the massacre in that time, and he's gone for the revenge. And this is the armor or the knife set he's going to be using. It actually retracts as well, and it's kind of crazy. It does exist, or it's just comic? Would be interesting to know. And then, of course, Daredevil gets to confront the Bengal because his friend has been asking him for his help. And what Daredevil is doing is actually kind of being on the watch, and he's been waiting for a while. And he says in here, "I cannot just keep on watch and wait for this guy." But suddenly he comes in with swoosh, and even Daredevil gets surprised by him because of his attempts. And it reminds him of Elektra. That's why I mentioned Elektra in that earlier part. Because of the swiftness of attack he was. So the Daredevil kind of ran away. He ran away as well because he's basically going on suicide mission, just killing everybody who was there and seeking justice. And Daredevil came to confront the guy who was asking help for and actually tell him the real story, what happened in there. And we understand that this kid who is going after them, because they were basically killed or massacred in there, they were escaping because of the situations where they were, the sweat and tears, not understanding miscommunications between parties, and so they were waiting for chopper and they trying to escape. And this kid jumped into and got hold of it, even though he was shot in his leg, but still managed to get hold of the helicopter. And the guy is just tearing up while telling the story, saying that one of his superiors was just trying to get rid of the kid. He was slamming his arms with his feet to just get rid of him, and he fell down, and he thought he never would have survived, but apparently he did. And that's why he's going after them to want murder. And once again, Daredevil sitting, waiting, and keeping a guard to make sure that the guy wouldn't be killed. He gets a souvenir by the arrow, and the destination to where they will have a confrontation. Really good. Of course, confrontation did happen. Lots of actions and scenes. I really like the scenes. I think it's really well portrayed. We like the movements and Daredevil kind of. They were very well distinguished between, which I really like that. In some points, sometimes reprinted or printed originally in the original format of comic book. Sometimes you lose the clarity of the scenes, but this one seems to be was really well done. And the solution was that the devil managed to basically beat the shit out of him. They could not get communications because they couldn't understand English, or the devil could not understand Vietnamese. So the only solution was to beat the hell out of him. But the Bengal had the last say. He jumped once again. And it's kind of saying, oh, yeah, but they didn't really tell you it's the story if it actually happened, if the body they found, because the scenes at the back, at the last panel says, just pray that they can live their yesterdays and well tomorrow. And let's go to call police and have them pick up the body. But they don't show you if they'd have. So maybe Bengal is still there and living, even though in the situation, how Daredevil was saying, he wasn't where he wouldn't really survive the jump because he was just beating the shit out of him by Daredevil. But it's entertaining enough. It's really, like one of those Daredevil stories. So one issue storyline, which is great. That's sometimes you need it. And I was thinking, oh my God, because I was paid like, I don't want this. I don't know if I have another issue. I just want to make sure the story ended. So I have kind of things to tell. But yeah, it had the end, sort of, because you don't really know if the Bengal survived or not, which is a good way of ending the comic, to be honest, especially a superhero comic.
Yeah, I mean, because they never really did anyway, right? So
So this is a Fantastic Four annual, and I'm kind of tempted because it has Inhumans in it, but I don't have it. But you know me with annuals, like older ones, you never know what you find in them.
What was the date on that one, roughly? What year?
This one, 1988.
88. Okay.
Yeah. September, whatever.
So maybe I'm being unfair to Cienza. It might be before he was an editor. I'm not sure.
Tom DeFalco was editor-in-chief in that era of Daredevil.
Because in the 90s, he was an editor and a writer. But it was, I think, common for the editors to give each other work.
Yeah.
Right.
Because there was a lot of money to be made right at that point.
Yeah. Because I know the name, so that's why I was like...
Yeah, and during the New 52, he came over to DC and did some work, I believe.
Yes.
Oh, really? Hey?
I think so, yeah. Yeah.
And but then he's faded away again, as far as I know. Maybe he's still doing work at Marvel or something. They've been doing a lot of bringing back the older writers to like continue little things they've done in the past. So was that before Nocente or during or after Nocente or during her run?
No, so I think it's during. It's because I already have read about that crazy chick. What's the name? The woman
Typhoid Mary.
Yes, that's the one. So Nocente was already. So it's in between. I think because I looked in the previous issue I read, which was about 10 issues before, and Nocente writing, still writing.
Maybe it was one of those things they just had in a file in case they missed a missed a deadline.
You never know. I still continue. That's the thing. Quite a few chunks on Nocente's run I'm missing, and I'm kind of disappointed because I did thoroughly enjoy what I was read so far, and I know there's probably more gems to get hold of, especially in Daredevil run, and especially in that era. They're not really expensive, but that was kind of surprised that I have not yet picked it up. But yeah, so there's like, when you start reading, actually you're starting collections, you're like, oh shit, I'm missing quite a few things.
Yeah.
You just start to realize it. So it's kind of disappointing. But
I'm always debating with myself whether to keep reading or wait till I can fill in the issues.
Yeah.
I did like this time I decided just to pick up one, and I was lucky enough to pick up the single story, because that not always happens. It's kind of frustrating, to be honest, when you read the story in that time and it doesn't finish, and you're like, oh shites, you want more kind of thing, or you want to understand what happens.
Well, especially with that stuff, because you never know what that next issue is, right? Like, was there
Exactly.
some big reveal and that next issue is going to cost you $50, or will it be 25 cents? So
Yeah, this is the gamble these days.
Yeah.
Before it used to be like when we started. Well, I started reading comics. I was complaining how expensive they were, but they weren't really expensive. Now,
Right.
in comparison, because what the movie universes have done to comic books is actually unbelievable.
Dan,
Especially-
the guy at Mad Cat, had his
Yeah.
auction recently, and he had a Daredevil issue 6 beat to hell, but like $40. I missed it, but it was like, really beat to hell. But I mean, just to have it would have been great, because my earliest, I think, is 8 or 9. So I missed it by 5 minutes or something to get it.
Any significance in is this number? Where's his first appearance of Red Costume? Is it 8 or 6?
Jeez, no, I think it's.
Something
No,
in
it
that
was like
number.
4 or
I
something.
thought it was like 4 or 5 or
No.
something. Yeah.
No. 6. Oh, now you're gonna give me okay.
Yeah.
I have
Damon
Marvel
is-
Unlimited right here. I could
There
look.
you go. There you go. That's better source than the
see.
internet.
Right.
It's actual the source where it comes from. Now it's 7. There you go,
Oh.
Rick. Thank you.
Oh.
Rick
Okay, yeah,
Ray.
there you go.
You see, I was right. You
Hello,
were
Rick
right.
Ray.
The brain is faster than the hand here. So
Right.
thanks, Ray.
Yeah, that's the one I always been on the lookout. But then since the TV shows coming out, that's number 7 went into somewhere you want to reach, or you have to sell a little bit of your soul.
Yeah.
Or your collection.
Or half your collection. Yeah, exactly.
No.
I
Anybody
guess it
wants?
was that issue.
Yes, there you
Right.
go. That's the first appearance of his red costume.
And is that the first Wally Wood issue?
Don't know, but
It is
yeah,
Wally Wood.
The Wally Wood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful art.
Yeah.
Oh shit! I don't want to read that now.
Yeah. Digital.
Shit.
I'll sell you this copy for $100.
Yeah.
Yeah, go on. Bo, make sure you post that tablet with it, so I know it's actually I have it.
Yeah.
I really like Daredevil and floppies. I have read a couple of them in the digital format, and I do like the colors and all that background colors, but the floppies still gives you I retain more information. I
Right.
still can say for sure I do retain more information when I read floppies when digital.
I do too. I mean, yeah, it's very clear that I don't remember digital as well, but I'm not sure why.
I mean, either.
Why that
I don't know
is.
what's the well. I think is it in the notion of actually flipping the pages?
Maybe
and,
engaging more your senses. Yeah. Like you're
Yeah,
holding
because
it, you're
it's-
flipping,
yeah.
you're interacting in a different way. Maybe.
Yeah.
That
It's sound.
tactileness.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't
Never
know.
know. we are old beasts. Okay,
That
Damon,
was not Wally Wood's first issue though, because he's in the issue before. I see.
Mhm.
Oh,
So I don't know how many issues he did, but I would love to own all the Wally Wood issues. That would be awesome.
Mhm.
Do you?
yeah.
How low does your collection go of Daredevil?
I can't remember if it's issue 8 or if it's issue 9. I don't remember what my first one is, but really close.
So you have some of the Wally Wood ones then?
I beat him by one. I have the
Ooh.
first Purple Man.
Oh,
Wow.
So that's number 4, is it, or
I
3?
think so. Yeah. Yeah. I've just
Yeah.
got the True Believers one of that one.
I have original.
Yeah,
Maybe I don't have
You
the
are
first
the
300,
queen.
but I have.
You're the Daredevil queen.
It's actually really nice to look at that the first.
Yeah. I love looking at those early stuff.
I remember. I never forget. Do you remember? I think the time when we were looking at Daredevil #1 issue,
Uh-huh.
and I went to the comic bar. I remember I looked at the prices, and they were like what 800, I think, at the time. And
Yeah.
it was cheap.
You should have bought it then.
Well, that's
800
it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I saw
800 was
#1
cheap.
for 700, a graded copy many
Uh-huh.
years ago at our big con, and it was like, yeah,
Cheap.
yeah. What are you gonna do? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now I only have that reprinted edition.
Right.
How many copies of that I have? I think probably a couple.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah,
A couple,
yeah.
I think.
Yeah. Shucks. Maybe somebody wants to gift us. Please, people. Me and Terrence, we're going to split it. And we'll
Yeah, that's
show,
right. Yeah.
I show my half and you show your half.
I'll pop the staples out and we'll cut it in half.
Ooh, painful. Well, whoever out there is going to do that while you're at it, get me a copy of Savage Tales #1.
There you go.
that I first looked at
Oh.
when it was $100 and said,
Oh.
no way, that's too expensive. The price of it now it's
Wow.
$2,000.
Holy shit.
Is that the first appearance of Man-Thing?
Man-Thing. Yeah, apparently collectors love the Man-Thing.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful cover, by the way, because
Yeah.
of the the head is holding. She
Conan
holding.
is holding a head.
Oh, Conan. Yeah. Long hair man. Yeah, it's a beautiful cover.
Yeah,
for sure.
and it's the only appearance of the Femizons, Stan Lee's statement about woman power.
Oh, really?
Oh.
Stan Lee and John Romita wrote this sexy Femizons thing that they thought were being really feminist with.
Right.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's the one Conan comic I'll probably never get now unless there's some miracle.
Oh, maybe you should.
I can't enjoy a $2,000 comic.
Yeah.
No fun in it.
Yeah.
Even
Too terrified.
I bet even the like trash copy still goes for like pretty buck as well.
Yeah. When I say 2,000, I don't think that was the top level. I'm not talking 9.8 or something like that.
Right.
There was a guy we're not mentioning on YouTube used to be showing off that copy. I remember that really clearly. You know the guy,
really?
the Cummings.
Oh, really? He had it. Oh,
Damn.
wow.
Yeah, he had it. I remember.
Yet another reason to hate that guy.
I thought that, yeah, but yeah, he definitely. I remember clearly because I always loved that cover, but I didn't realize at the time what significance of it was until like lots of people on YouTube. You start watching more YouTube videos, you kind of your brain starts to click in. I was like, oh, first appearance.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I started looking around, and every time I looked it up, or I didn't never find it, or if I find it, it used to be graded and used to be in that region where you crazy people. How do you even?
I think it must have had a small print run.
Right.
Because I remember they canceled it after one issue because sales were so bad. So it might be they got screwed over by like the distributor people or something, and it didn't get out there.
Wow, didn't know that. That makes even more sense then, because of the unavailability. Okay, Damien, do you have something to share?
Sure, I can show this misogynistic.
Hey, look at that.
And
go on.
And you can do my overhead thing. Misogynistic and this. So you guys may remember Atlas Comics, the Martin Goodman's Revenge on Marvel Comics. Where he went and offered everyone higher rates and stuff. And I was a kid when it came out. What year was this? 1975. So 74, 75. I was savvy enough to understand comics at that point were Marvel and DC, plus a few other things like Archie and Harvey. And suddenly, all over the newsstands were dozens of these Atlas comics all coming out at once. And I was so excited. It was like the birth of the Marvel universe all over again. So I bought as many as I could. And I had The Grim Ghost. And I always remember this as the most disturbing book. It's drawn by Ernie Colin. You can see in the cover, there are souls burning in the flames here.
Amazing.
And they're not attractive souls. There's a guy with man boobs and stuff. And it's drawn by Ernie Colin, who at the time I really didn't know much about, but he's an artist that hasn't had many peaks, but when he does peak, it's really good stuff. And this isn't quite his peak work, but some of his best work was on Amethyst back in the 70s.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Early 80s.
You were collecting them, isn't it?
Sorry?
Were you collecting Amethyst as well?
I've collected all the Amethyst. Yeah, those are pretty cool. And this is written by Michael Fleischer, who's now famous thanks to kayfabe or memories for being suing Harlan Ellison for dissing him in the Comics Journal.
Right.
And I guess Harlan Ellison said he was batshit crazy. He's the one. He's the one who did those crazy Spectre stories where he cuts people in half with scissors and stuff.
The best Spectre stories. Yeah.
And I did not know those Spectre stories might be Michael Fleischer's peak. I did not know those at the time, but I read a lot of comics with Michael Fleischer, and his comics seem to be totally amoral. And this one's a perfect example of it. This guy is a ghost in the modern world, and he shows up and these are really evil robbers who shoot to death the
God.
night guard at the grocery or department store that they're stealing
Mm-hmm.
stuff from. And the gray ghost comes along and sends them to hell.
Mm-hmm.
And then he kind of flirts with this woman, and she's the one who killed the night guard.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's significant. And then she tries to kill him after she kind of flirts with him. So I'm going to have to cut this short, Matthew baby. The Late Show's on TV, and I wouldn't want to miss it. Bam, bam, bam. But he's kind of like the Spectre, I guess. He turns her bullets into roses and then offers her the roses. But
Of course.
immediately says they're somewhat likely to get singed. Poof. And he sends her off to hell. And then we get his backstory where he is a highwayman during the period just before the American Revolution.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is Lord someone. And Lord someone's wife just immediately is all excited by this highwayman and right in front of her husband is saying how charming he is and
Mm-hmm.
how she'd like to spend some time with him. And she's not even bothered when he kills their guard or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then they smooch and she invites him to come visit him some other time. And then he goes in his normal guise as a gun dealer, goes to the party at the Lord someone's, I just can't remember the name of the Lord, but goes to his party and flirts with the wife, who does so openly in front of her husband.
It's really well drawn.
And then
Really
Ernie Collins' art is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So sorry for going blow by blow, but he comes into her room thinking they are going to do the nasty, but it actually was a trap. And so they get him, and she's so she is just totally creepy in every way. So the women are awful in Michael Fleischer books, is why I didn't want to do it right after those intense books of yours.
Mm-hmm.
But in this comic, everyone, I mean, there's no good guy at all. So they hang him, and he's killed 22 people and robbed from many more. And he's off to hell, which is just pretty disturbing looking for a kids comic.
So he actually gets hung for real.
He actually what?
He actually gets hung. Oh wow.
He gets hung, but it's kind of cool. He perceives it as he just keeps as he drops through the trap door. Yeah. He just keeps falling and falling for a really long time,
right,
till he lands in hell. And then he meets Satan, and Satan is admires how evil he's been.
Yeah.
And he says, "Why, you're going to suffer the tortures of perdition till the end of time," Matthew Dunsany. But then he says, "But I need more. I don't have enough souls here in hell, and so let's make a deal. I like your style." And so he sends him back to Earth. Here's some great pictures there. Sends him back to Earth to gather evil souls for him. So poof, but he won't. He's all excited. He's going to go back to his time and get back at that woman who betrayed him. But he says, "No, I'm going to send you to the modern day in the 70s." So he sends him through time. I guess the devil can do that. And that sets up for more adventures where he an evil man will find evil souls and send them to hell.
Lesson learned.
And that seems to sum up Michael Fleischer to me.
Wasn't there? There was only like 2 or 3 issues.
I think there are 2 more issues.
Okay.
And I'm not, or maybe just 1 more. I think 2 more. So I need to dig them up out of my box because I want to see what Michael Fleischer did next.
Yeah.
But another thing that always happened with Atlas Comics is by issue 3, they got a whole new creative team, and then they would, and then they went out of business. But they would shuffle creative teams very rapidly. And apparently they lied to people and told people they would get to keep the rights to their characters.
Right.
Because I heard that in an interview with Mike Grell. He almost did Warlord with them.
Oh, boy.
But he didn't get the rights to his character Warlord either from
Mhm.
DC. He asked DC if they would let him keep the rights to the Warlord
And they
character.
laughed.
Laughed at it in its face.
Yeah.
You saw the same interview, probably.
No, I didn't. I just imagine that's what they
They
did.
literally laughed at him.
Yeah, I don't doubt it for a second.
But,
Gee
and then they
whiz.
promised him that they would do it for at least 10 issues, I think, and then they canceled it after 1 or 2.
Mhm.
But then Jeanette Kahn liked it and brought it back.
Right.
That's Warlord trivia.
Right.
But anyway,
Now they're
it's a lot of fun. I think a lot
Warlord.
because of the art. Michael Fleischer is, I don't know, is this just what he was into, or did he kind of think it was funny just to make everybody despicable?
Yeah, I mean, not having any, that's an angle for sure. Having these,
and it's striking in comics that have the Comics Code Authority on them and all of that.
Yeah.
So it feels like he was kind of daring in a way, but he was also maybe just very cynical.
Yeah.
But
My
anyway,
kind of
I'd love to hear interviews with Michael Fleischer. Actually, I haven't seen any of those.
Very cool.
Cool. Mr. Turns, do you have anything else?
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk about this one. It's a quick one, but it's a fun one. So with my Jim Woodring, I found this in my son's room. So this is something from Press Pop Gallery from, I think it was 2004. It's made the rounds through both of the kids' rooms. I remember Jaden and I sitting when he was really little, and he would make up stories because it's a silent, like a lot of this stuff in the Frank world from Woodring. It's a silent story. But one of the things, I'll just kind of show you some of the interiors there. So one of the things that he does in this one is he leaves a page. So you get one page with where the text would have been, and then one page of the image. So I remember sitting and Jaden like making up stories for this. And then I sat once or twice with Lillian too when she was little, trying to make up stories and, just kind of flipping through the books. So it was nice to see it again because I haven't seen it in many years. And it's beautiful, and it's just loving Woodring's art, right? I mean, that's what it's about. It's this kind of amazing world that he has. This magic just takes place and sort of surprises them, but at the end of the day, they love it, and it's just kind of it's not completely mind-blowing as he jumps back through again. So really, just a really, really nice little story. And it does, especially in this format, it does give it this kind of, because there's no man hog in this one. So it gives it this real kid-friendly kind of quality to this story as they're just exploring this world. They do see some, broken down old buildings and things like that, but there's nothing like scary or intense about it. They're, finding places to swim and all of this kind of stuff, right? So, and getting up to mischief by scaring these frogs underwater. Woodring's fascination with frogs. They always make appearances in his work. So just really good. They're almost like dogs to some degree. They're almost like these pets, is the way that I've always felt about them through the Frank stories. So really, really nice. A really small little book. And then it ends with a nice image of, them just sleeping outside together, cuddled. So really, really great to revisit this. Press Pop, I think, also did, I think Woodring did some toys with Press Pop. They're based out of Japan because he had some toys that came out. I've always wanted to grab one of them, but they're, of course, really expensive, especially at this point, because like everything else, they didn't do very many of them. But so I think he worked with them for a little bit. But yeah, it's a really nicely put together, and especially considering the kids have had their hands on it, everything is holding up really nicely as far as like the binding on it, even with all of the dirty fingerprint marks on the white pages and things. It's holding up really, really well. So yeah,
cool.
Just a nice little quick read.
Yeah, that's for sure. I need more silent comic books in my realm. It seems to be the easiest way to deal with it. Like,
It's nice to kind of just sit and relax. You know what I mean? Like with that Eros comic, it was just beautiful to just take up the images and just kind of soak it all in, right? And look at some little details and
I
I
want to
tried to
ask.
buy some of that artwork on Heritage a few weeks
Oh,
ago,
Oh,
did you really?
but
Were
I
you
didn't.
successful?
I was not successful.
No.
I'm now looking to see if it says how high it went for, but
oh. I
but you
wanted
go
to ask
ahead,
you.
Rasa.
Probably a good chunk, I imagine.
My phone is telling me you should go sleep now. I wanted to ask, have you guys read this called The Ghost Fleet?
No.
No, that
It's
name
by
sounds familiar.
it's by Donny Cates and art by Daniel Warren Johnson.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
It
from
came
a
out.
while ago, I'm thinking before they
Yeah,
were digging up.
2017 release date. But I don't recall seeing it. Like like you
Yeah.
always look at the new stuff, but I've never seen it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so wondering if you guys
Who put that one out?
Image.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. I was just like,
This
because
is
it's
the one I did not manage to buy.
Oh, hey,
Oh,
there you
yes.
go.
From that book or somewhere else.
Right. Yeah, no, that really
Oh.
looks like it's from this. Let's have a quick look.
Yeah, it went for quite a bit. It went for $4,080.
Oh, actually, cheaper than I would have suspected. Can I see it one more time?
Sure.
Huh. I'm kind of surprised that it. Not that that's uber cheap or anything, but I thought that his stuff would have.
Well, sometimes people on, the vast majority of people on Heritage are looking for mainstream stuff. So sometimes you
Right.
can get the less
Mhm.
mainstream stuff.
Yeah, there you go. First page in the book
Yeah.
there.
Nice.
Um,
Jeez.
yeah, it says it was 8.5 by 7.5 image area, so not too big.
Uh-huh.
Mm.
Ink and watercolor on Bristol board.
Yeah.
So probably not that much bigger than the
book
copy you
itself.
have.
Yeah, yeah.
Looks very bright for watercolors.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's interesting what kind of because not all watercolor can pop as much as this one is.
Does the
like
book have a border? Because it looks,
Go on.
when you see the whole thing, it looks kind of borderless, like a watercolor picture
Yeah.
over the edges. Is it like
It's-
that in the book?
I'm
or did
assuming
they-
it was taped. I'm assuming it was taped off because it's
Yeah.
very crisp
right.
edges
So they've
there.
added crisp borders to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the same throughout, I think. Yeah, it's every single page is the same for that sharpness.
Awesome.
And maybe because that's a children's story, because people are, some of his other work I see here is gone for 7,000.
Uh-huh.
Well, 4,000 to 7,000.
Right.
But
I wonder how much it goes to his pocket.
Well, if he even was the one selling it, someone.
Yeah,
may
that's
have
right.
Yeah,
gone,
that's
like,
the thing.
That's the
Yeah.
one that went for 7,000.
Whoosh.
Oh, beautiful.
Wait,
People may
wait.
go for the real detailed line work that he's known for, rather than
Yeah.
paint.
Gorgeous.
Okay.
Yeah, the black and white stuff. He's incredible, man. It's beautiful stuff.
Is it just pencil?
And I
or is
probably
it-
bid $300.
Right.
And it zoomed up ahead of me.
Yeah.
So in that like black and white one, is that just charcoal or is it watercolor?
We'll see what they say.
Because that's really good crisp lines, man. So that
Mhm.
he blends it.
Charcoal on extra thick Stonehenge paper.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So he blends it. Oh my god!
He blends it like crazy. Yeah, he
Yeah, it
goes
looks like a
layer
computer.
and layer and layer and
Oh,
layer and layer.
It's
Yeah.
a very light touches. It doesn't over.
I mean, that one is huge. It's 37 inches by 45 inches.
Oh, wow.
Whoa! That's like
So
a
it's
wall
almost
space.
like more just an art collector's piece
Yep.
rather than something from a comic.
Mhm.
Beautiful, man. Really
I'd
beautiful.
love to have that, but I'm not at the point where I want to spend $7,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you want, I can charcoal you. It's similar what he done.
Yeah.
For cheaper if you want.
I'll pay you $300.
Yeah.
Really? Okay, let me go work. So it's me next. This is my last thing I read.
Okay.
But it's a cream of the crop. I think this is my favorite so far.
By the way, I'm going to have to go in a few minutes. So
Oh.
if you don't, I'll say goodbye while you're talking. If
Okay. Cool.
I'm just keeping an eye on the clock. But
Okay, cool. Anyway, so of course we're going to the Doctor Strange
Hey.
realm.
Yep.
And this is probably my favorite 2 issues. Well, I don't know how many issues to be honest, but I read these 2 issues. And I'm not sure if I've read them already, but it seems to be it's all as entertaining as always. And to my delight, it's of course Gene Colan's art in
Hmm.
both issues, which I absolutely love. This is what the Doctor Strange in my mind should be looking in generally, because I think it's you just have the right I don't know, whatever, it just works for me. Like this kind of like scenes he does, and every
Yeah.
single time I look at Gene Colan's art in Doctor Strange, it's always I want to go and gravitate towards Tomb of Dracula, and I never of course find any of them because they're overpriced like as
Hmm.
hell comes to Rising. But anyway, so this story where Doctor Strange in really big trouble, the world is about to end. It's going, and it's a bit like crazy to emotions, where is they saying there's several Doctor Strange in existence. We have Baron Mordor there as well as a other versions of Doctor Strange and from different realities. And what Doctor Strange has to basically come up with solutions how to win against eternity. And of course, his um, guide in everything says you can't do that.
Yeah.
And he's like, how can it not? How he can it be not possible? And he says, you can't. The ancient ones say, keep on saying to him, and he's like, he's not. But I am the, the cream
Fucking
of the
ancient
crop.
ones. Always.
Yeah, I'm the cream. I'm the supreme superior, and he gets distracted by all this. Like Clea comes into his mind, and he just wants to distract himself because he wants to concentrate. He needs to be available to defeat them. In that all conversation, even the ancient one attacks him, and he starts to feel like he is not the one. Like he's hallucinating or it's a dream world, and starts double guessing himself. And the scenes it's just of his torment where he travels. He doesn't really understand, doesn't grasp idea of defeat yet, and he's continuously having that motion throughout the comic book. And he's that when I have not read with him when he's being in the mask. Terrence have read more in when he was wearing a mask.
Yeah.
So in here he says that he's like a worse a part of him, like he's like a bad part of the Doctor Strange appears in here, and he's basically turned him, telling him that you're not going to succeed. I am the ultimate one, you are just a kind of like
A
a
shadow or a
fake or
copy.
a
Yeah.
fake, yeah, or copy, yeah, or something like that. So, and also it's funny enough, so I didn't realize that Malvis stamp changed the shape. Maybe I wasn't watching enough ATNX.
That was the second run of the Marvel value stamps.
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay, there you go. That's
So
why
they
I
did
was
it
thinking.
twice with two
Yeah,
different.
I always like when it's intact. I was like, oh, thank God. It's always
Yeah.
good thing to have. And then he basically, while this tormenting him, he sees this masked man, and behind mask was a skull.
Hmm.
And behind the skull was basically him, and he just like this fight between whatever is happening, and that he's slipping and his mind is slipping and he won't be able to do it, and it's just going crazy. And the pages are absolutely fantastic.
So good.
And then it says at the back, says it shows the Earth's demise, so he didn't succeed, and you're like, oh, this is it, kind of thing. This is the end for the comic. You can end Doctor Strange comic like that. And it says you want answers, you want solutions, and you'll find them in Doctor Strange number 13. To my happiness, I do have one. So I was very happy. It's like,
Thank
oh, I
goodness.
do have that in my
You'll get all the
my-
answers now.
yeah, I'll get all my answers. And it says eternity is destroying the ancient one, and their powers to stop him, and I'm powerless to stop him once again. Like like always, he's just powerless all the time.
Yeah.
To my surprise, so this is starts, the planet Earth is no more. So they are continuing that motion. So I was thinking surely we'll come back and wake up from the storytelling, and they will tell us that Earth has survived, but apparently not, and Doctor Strange is floating. And it's like, but why am I here? Like if Earth is gone, I shouldn't be part of it anyway. Like I should not be in an existence. But of course, in his mind, starts to like kind of like waken his minds to understand what's happening. And then to my surprise, they start mentioning this, which I wasn't aware. I'm gonna very kind of jump into the things because he gets into Nightmare's world. And Nightmare was the one culprit. Why this actually happened. Nightmare, it looked like that. I'm kind of surprised. I was thinking Nightmare looked like not in this fashion, but I guess this is how they perceive Nightmare.
Hmm.
Terrence, are you aware?
In that one, yeah, I mean, like with anything, you get the
Yeah.
artist's interpretation to some
I
degree,
see.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. And to my surprise, the Nightmare actually defeated Eternity, and he actually captured him.
Right.
And that's how they managed to basically to completely destroy the Earth and everything surrounding it. It was the whole culprit of all things. But another thing which I was not aware, the Eternity used to be a man. Did you know that, Terrence?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And his name was Adam.
Best freaking
I
character
did not
ever,
know
man.
that.
I am Adam Quadmon, the archetype of a man. Apparently, the Earth was created by his image, not
Right.
God's, but by eternity's image. And then he says, describing, uh, but over the eons advanced them from one cell to two, to many, to plants, to creatures, to fish, to mammals, to primates. And I was like, to the man. I was like, what the hell? And, oh, by the way, values time intact.
Nice. Cut
You
it
can
out.
collect them all.
Yeah, collect them all. And then that's the so he saves eternity, Doctor Strange. He's basically makes them survive. And I was surprised because, like knowing that the struggle Doctor Strange have with eternity, who maybe will have double thought, but he's not,
God.
wasn't the subject he was in his head. The Earth survival was what he wanted to portray. But of course, by being Doctor Strange and in conversation to eternity, he says like, so bring it everything back to normal, like it used to be. And he's like, I can't do this. But it's like, what do you mean? You're the one enticing thing. You're just telling me the story that you created everything. So why can't you do it? And he's like, I can't do it. So while he has conversation, the eternity got pissed off and turned Doctor Strange into this this little thing. Oh, that one.
Right. Right.
I was like, what? And he's
Weird.
like, Doctor Strange says, but already enchantment fades. He meant me no harm. It was just a joke. Kind of thing. But to our surprise, of course, the ancient one came and they had the battle between two, which was fantastic, by the way. But because they won in existence, well, ancient one is kind of dead, and it's just personification of it, of him. So he was able kind of like fight off the eternity and convince him to make a new Earth, not the one it was before, but to bring it back the Earth, or 2.0 Earth kind of thing. And Doctor Strange, of course, sits down and it's all fine now. And of course, we have to mention this. Dracula next issue contains begins the Tomb of Dracula 44, and I don't have that, which I got really pissed off by, because Doctor Strange appears in that issue as well. But anyway,
Awesome.
One of the fantastic little stories of
That
Doctor
cover.
Strange for sure, and I think art is the winner in there for sure.
Yeah. And anyone with eternity in it is going to be a winner for sure. It's such a great character.
And of course, as I say, Gene Colan, like Paula says, Cloaks was it's just so it just looks
and the layouts of that issue look really, really cool.
Yeah.
Look at this. It looks
like
in motion,
almost.
Nothing static about it. It's just and even those planets, how the Earth came to be, and the explanations is just so imaginative. The schemes of how he wanted to put the panels and stuff like that, really fantastic. One of the kind of crazy and maybe eclectic stories to tell, but really good storyline.
Right.
And
it's always like that when he goes inside himself to like battle his demons and face death and all these kind of things that he does so regularly.
And like a child complains to the Ancient One saying, how the hell I can't do this, let me do this.
Yeah.
And then they mentioned the Genghis Khan in this, because Maris Mordo was part of it as well, of the story, where they just lifeless sitting there,
right,
cooped up, and then Baron Mordo took the Genghis Khan's entity and enticed himself, and that's how everything just went into Earth collapsing into one ocean. So very good. I mean,
amazing.
Fantastic little read, and I'm so glad I had those particular ones, because they're not cheap anymore.
Yeah.
either. It's not really easy to get hold of, especially Gene Colan's art, I think is
No, that volume is getting more expensive for sure, which I don't quite understand, but yeah.
We get reprinted now in Epic editions.
Oh, okay.
But they come out quickly and then they usually get sold out. Well, like Tomb of Dracula is absolutely bonkers to get collected.
Yeah,
It's absolutely
I
impossible.
never see those books around. I never see any of those issues.
And I really, really want to read. I mean, I can do the masterwork, like the marvelous, like Damien on tablet, but I just really want to have it because looking at this floppies and looking at this art and imaginations and in original format, it's just more mind blowing at the end of the day because of the geniuses of those creators can come up in the page. And Tomb of Dracula like the samplers I've seen looks absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
It's just
Gene Colan is an artist you do want on physical. Just there's something about his art. It's so shadowy and the sometimes amazing layouts and stuff that you're not going to appreciate digitally.
Plus, you got to smell the book.
There's that.
Smell that pulpiness.
It's funny how I keep this Doctor Strange's in Mylar. As much as I can, as much my Mylar I have in my collection. Honestly, the smell is not as impactful as it would be in a plastic, which is actually odd. But it's still,
that's a good sign. That smell deteriorating.
Yeah. I know. I do understand it, but it's just kind of interesting. How can you compare? Like, I took out Daredevil from the typical plastic bag we keep in those comics. And the smell was, I mean, the memories, and it hits you straight away. And I was like, okay, get ready. I just take from nothing. I was like, what the hell happened? Like, but
in my mind, you want a nice light smell. There's some comics that are so pungent they make me sneeze as soon as I come out of the bag.
Yeah. Well, the Doctor Strange, I like not Doctor Strange, the Daredevil. I bought it. I never took it out from the bag. Because the bag was looking like a bit of a shit. So it's good that I'm doing it because I'm basically, when I read now, I rebag some of the stuff because I don't want it to be.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Because they get to that sticky, shitty thing feel, which I absolutely hate. And afterwards, your hand goes like, wash, like as much as possible. Anyway.
Well, sadly, on that note, I need to head out.
Okay.
And next week I will be traveling, so I will see you guys in 2 weeks, I guess.
For sure. Okay. We'll be here.
Happy comic book reading.
Thanks.
See you later.
Later.
Okay. Bye. Okay. You have anything else to share? Because I don't.
I mean, I could talk about one more, I guess.
Are you gonna do your Sunday wrap anyway?
When we talk about this one. So this was kind of a surprise to me. This post-mortem by Matt Howarth. So picked it up because it was Matt Howarth, Brave New Words. It's always worth looking at his stuff. What I didn't realize was that this runs its work from, I thought it said the late 70s into the early 80s. So it's a real cross. You get some really early work by him. And I was amazed by some of this early stuff. So much so that as much as I'm enjoying Matt Howarth these days, I wish there was more that looked like this. They're all kind of short stories. There wasn't necessarily anything story-wise that stood out to me. It's all within his kind of Post Brothers world, Savage Henry world. Some of the stuff appeared in Heavy Metal magazine in the 80s, in the early 80s. I think he says 80, 81. Yeah, 1980 to 1981. And I don't have a ton of those. I'm going to have to look again, though, to see if I have any of these. But, man, was this a surprisingly fun bunch of stuff to read. I mean, Howarth's later stuff especially can kind of have this look to it that just doesn't always work, that really takes a bit to kind of put your mind into. But this era, this early era, is fantastic. Like stuff like this, again, like the use of the page. So this is a giant kind of planet, and there's a ship way down there with the asterisks to say what they're talking about. But all of the kind of heat and vapors and stuff coming off of that planet is incredible. So it was a really nice surprise. Let's see if I can find a couple of other strong images from him, and just also the experimentation stuff that I haven't really seen Howarth do with this kind of like splattered ink and things. And I'm guessing, I don't know if it's white medium put over top of it or what the deal is. I'm assuming, but I don't remember seeing him doing a lot of stuff like this. So very, very cool. It was a lot of fun. But like I said, the storytelling was rough, to say the least. I just didn't really get much from the individual stories that I could even talk you through one of the shorts. But it's chock full of short stories, and they don't all relate to one another. So it's not one continuing story going through. But man, was it beautiful to look at. Yeah, I think those are some of the better images from it. But I mean, especially stuff that's appearing in heavy metal. This era, I thought it said earlier on, the early stuff was 1977-ish is what I think I remember reading. So that nice era of maybe still experimenting with drugs and things. Guy pulling off his head there. So really, really, and also good page layouts too, experimenting with page layouts. So this was a really nice hidden treasure. I don't know. I'm mixed on, like, whenever I read something from one of these kind of creators, it's one of those books where this is potentially a good starting point for people, but I also feel like you won't get much out of the stories. It also starts to feel like you have to be really immersed in Post Brothers world and Matt Howarth's world to maybe be sort of a almost completist to want to pick some of this stuff up. So kind of mixed thoughts on if, and again, the idea that Damien was talking about with his grim ghost there's not many good characters in here. I mean, the Post Brothers are basically hired assassins. They do have a little bit of morals, but not very much, right? So they're paid to go and kill people, and they revel in it. They love their job, basically. So
is it the guy who did the Satellite Sam?
Satellite Sam? No.
Yeah.
Satellite Sam was Chaikin, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about.
I think if it's the same book I'm thinking of.
Yeah. You are. You're right. I went just a little bit blank on my.
But I think like these were some of my favorite pages from it. I just love that layout of Savage Henry there. Really, really great. So a nice kind of surprise there, but maybe one that's a little more for completists as opposed to someone just kind of getting into his stuff. But a style that I haven't really seen from him before. So
what is the best thing you read of him? Or whatever is in your mind.
It's really tough. Honestly, I like that I think it was called Uber Dub, that 3-issue mini series. I thought was a lot of fun. That takes place in like the Savage Henry kind of universe. So the band, I would say anything from this company, Brave New Words, though, try it out. And I know online he does have a website, and I know that you can download stuff for free. Or at least there was a time very recently where you could download some of his stuff for free and just sample it digitally. Now, some of it might have been created on the computer as well, too. And again, like, there's certain eras of his art I'm starting to discover that I like more than others, like, because there's some kind of stories, and I think it might have been one or two of the stories that I read digitally, that the art just didn't really do much for me. It was just not kind of, I don't know, it just didn't resonate as well. So you really have to kind of be in that mindset to appreciate some Howarth.
It says that Harlan Ellison's Dream Corridor series he was part of.
Okay.
Or maybe I'm going a bit, yeah. Among Matt's notable non-musical related works are Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is interesting, Justice League of America, which is
kind of wild,
yeah. Steve Bissett's Taboo Anthologies work on Harlan Ellison's Dreams Corridor series, illustrations for Warren Ellis Transmetropolitan, which I probably have seen it, those. Yeah, lots of things. Desert Peach. Nancy A. Collins with Annoying Post Bro series. Phil Folio's Xenophile series. So yeah, man. Wow. He's
Yeah, and I've
doing
heard some
top.
of the music that he was doing too, and this kind of space age electronic music.
Mhm.
It's pretty great. The little bit that I've heard is pretty great too. And working with musicians, most notably like the Residents, the band The Residents, he's worked with to create kind of the comic of their world, and working with
Okay.
artists on their album covers, etc.
Cool.
So yeah,
Oh, okay. Cool. So we're done.
I think so. Yeah,
Yeah, we've been quite a long, like 2.5 hours. That's
yeah,
good enough, I think.
I think that's plenty.
So next week we will see what happens. We
Yep,
probably, if it's gonna happen, it's probably gonna be on your channel. Then if Damien is
probably.
not part of our turn.
We have Lillian's birthday party with her friends, and I can't
Oh
remember if that's
yes.
on Saturday or if it's on Sunday, but I'll keep you posted.
Don't worry. If
Yep,
something happens, then we can maybe do some other time
yep,
or some other weekend. And anyway, thank you, people who showed up.
yep.
Enjoy your the rest of your Sunday. The people across the pond, like Terrence there as
Yeah,
well.
it's
He's
getting
gonna
dark
still,
already though because of that
yeah,
clock change, right? So
yeah, exactly. So it's dark and gloomy at the moment. But for
yeah,
me, it's time to snooze land. But although never know when I'm gonna my brain will say to switch off and then go sit
yeah,
in depart land and sleep. Anyway, so thank you very much for turning up, and we hopefully see you next week
you got
somewhere
it.
in the dreamland.
Later.